The Toronto Raptors lose at home after 4 days off. 5 days off? They had 5 days off against the Miami Heat. A fully healthy Miami Heat, you may ask. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro. Nope, those guys didn't play. Daniel, chill, my dude. It was 1 minute. Yikes. Every live, we got Daniel on the clock. I appreciate it. Anyways, we got Rob going to go in on Dennis. I didn't think I would have to. I mean, timing is everything in life, right? Okay, so before we launch into this game, I do want to give a quick shout out to Jason Watson. Jason is a community member who's been listening to these lives. He wrote me a DM today, he wrote me a DM almost half a month ago, and I didn't see it. But he tweeted at me today. He said, Hi, Rob. I have stage 4 cancer at the age of 35. Spending this fall watching basketball and listening to all your long lives has really helped me while laying in bed. Have something interesting to keep my mind busy. Please keep up the great work. So please, give a little shout out and prayers up. And look, man, that's really tough. Unfortunately, I've had a few friends throughout my life who face this. Scott saying prayers for Jason. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. On to this game. Hey, Dennis, pass the ball for Jason. Can you pass the ball for my sanity? Can we pass the ball for the goodness of the basketball gods? My God, man. This game was so weird. Like the way they started out the first half, you just felt like, oh God, not again. Not again, right? After everything we've heard, all the stuff we've seen, teams are supposed to grow from making the same mistakes, and this team consistently makes the same mistakes over and over and playing down to their competition. Feels like the Raptors thought, hey, no Bam Adebayo, no Tyler Herro. Easy work, right? We're just going to show up and win. This is not the way the NBA works. This is a team that was in the finals last year. Unbelievable. Let's take a look at what went right and what went wrong. In terms of what went right for the Raptors, I really like Pascal Siakam's game today, man. The comments are continuing to go. Love it, man. So a lot of prayers here for Jason. Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Loved Pascal Siakam's game tonight. Like offensively, I think he played right within the flow of the offense. I think defensively, it was not great, but offensively, I think he really, he got to the line 11 times. He was aggressive. He made his only 3 of the night. That was great. Ken, with a super chat here, starting to feel like last season. Yeah, it's giving me those vibes for sure. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way, sir. I liked OG Anunoby tonight. I think there was some nifty creativity that I think, has been sort of missing from him. I think these 4 days off were really good for him. He has really struggled since coming back from that finger stuff, the finger injury where he got stitches on his finger. So it was good to see him looking more like the player who started out the season. Scotty, tough game, man. He comes out in the first quarter, guns blazing, like super aggressive, right? And the team struggles. Like for whatever reason, guys can't catch passes, guys can't hit shots. Things are just not working. He goes to the bench. The Raptors call their second timeout. Darko Rajakovic calls one timeout, then he calls the second timeout. The Raptors respond, but Scotty's on the bench because he goes out first. He goes out before everybody. And then the Raptors go on this huge run, and I'm watching him on the bench, and he's just observing. And when he came back, he was an observer. Pretty much from that point on till about 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, he basically just stood in corners, set screens, dove to the basket, but not in a way where he was expecting to get the basketball. And I thought that was really disappointing because I think the Raptors could have really used him. Also, didn't love his defensive attention to detail. There was a couple of times where a ball just kind of like floated past him, in terms of rebounding, closing out possessions. I think I needed to feel him more tonight with his team struggling, and I didn't. In the third quarter, towards the end of the third quarter, we saw a unit which we rarely ever get to see, which is Scotty with the bench, but no Markquis, which means that effectively Scotty was the point guard. And immediately the game turned around, and it was quite inspiring to see. If you guys want to see what that looked like, let me check the game cast here. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you just to give you, yeah, it was right there. Hold on, let me make it a little bit bigger. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it was right there. And then the Raptors went on that huge run to close the gap. And it was about the best basketball they played pretty much the entire game, that 3-minute stretch. But of course, the fourth quarter comes around, neither team can score. Suddenly Miami starts to score, and the Raptors can't buy a bucket. You got Precious Achiuwa carrying the basketball. You got all sorts of issues. Scotty Barnes struggling to hit threes. And it just feels like the balance between team that can't score and team that scores easily is usually just one guy. It's one guy. I think Darko Rajakovic got thoroughly outcoached tonight. I'm just going to say that plainly. I think he was firmly outcoached. Back to player stats. I mean, Jakob Poeltl, I think defensively he was good, but offensively he got outplayed too by an undrafted rookie. I'll let that simmer in for a second. Orlando Robinson, puts up 15 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 block, 3. Wow. Team, it's second on his team in terms of plus minus, plus 27. I mean, I felt him out there. It was good. We'll talk about Dennis Schroder after. I'm going to save some for him. I liked Gary Trent off the bench. I think most of it was good. Precious Achiuwa, man, I don't know. Like a lot of really silly mistakes, but very offensively aggressive. He took 7 shots in 13 minutes. He was sort of hunting his own. I get it. Trying to prove to a team that traded you that they gave up on you too early. I think we can move on at this point. They made a good decision for themselves. They have Jaime Jaquez. They don't care, right? Nice to see Otto Porter get off the schneid. Does it surprise anybody that he has a team leading plus 14? He didn't score a single point. He only took 2 shots, but he just settles up so much. Defensively, he adds so much. He might be your second best defender, and I'm not even kidding. Like, he's good. It was nice to see Malachi Flynn not get into the game in the second half. I think he was pretty bad in the first half, and I was wondering to see if that was coming. Good to see a game with no Jalen McDaniels as well. It feels like the Raptors pretty much have this internal clock in terms of how much they're willing to mess around with rotations. And this felt like a game where they weren't really willing to mess around with rotations. Because you see, in an East that's so jam-packed, with you already being a bit fringy in terms of your talent level, you really can't fall 6-7 games under 500 or your season is over, right? Like, that's pretty much where you're in death grips right there. So their goal internally is probably the same as my goal, which was stated for them, which was stay around 500. After this loss, the Raptors fall 3 games under 500, which is tough. Chris Boucher, 0 for 2. I don't really have any strong thoughts about Chris Boucher tonight. I think he was all right. I was a little bit surprised to see Precious Achiuwa get in the game before him, but maybe that shouldn't be too surprising at this point. Hang on, my throat's a little bit. One sec. Let's look at the Heat side for a second before we get into Dennis Schroder. Duncan Robinson was great. Really liked him. Like, they're missing Max Strus, but I think Duncan just being as good as he's been for them this year and just going back to last year, There was a time when people were just like, this guy's the most overpaid guy and he's just really bad. And kudos to him for just pulling it back, right? He was the leading shot taker for them tonight. He was open a lot for a guy who's that good. And I think the play that kind of broke your back was Duncan in the corner. And Dennis Schroder just runs right past them. And then I don't know. I can't tell you if he fell out of bounds, but ultimately Scotty Barnes came from the top of the floor to contest Duncan. Like, I don't know how Dennis was so out of position after one contest. Typically, once you contest, you're able to get back into it within about a second. Um, that was really the backbreaker for the Raptors. Caleb Martin was incredible, especially like to start out the game. He had 23 points, and we were just somewhere like 3 minutes into the second quarter. He scored 1 point the rest of the way through, so that was good. Got to the line, scored 1 for 2 there. Jimmy Butler, quiet game by Jimmy standards, but this is the regular season, not the playoffs. He had 19 points. Kyle Lowry, super quiet game. Went 1 for 4 from 3, really didn't press, didn't push, had a really big block on Dennis Schroder. So really kudos to Kyle Lowry. Very happy to see that block. Honestly, it was well-deserved. Dennis was pressing and he deserved to get blocked on that. And, good for Kyle. I think he just played a good, solid floor game. Off the bench, Jaime Jaquez. I can't even tell you how impressive this rookie is. He leads, and he was like basically a starter for them. Right. And Josh Richardson was, decent defensively. Look, man, like they turned up the pressure whenever they wanted. First quarter, third quarter, and the Raptors just couldn't score. Like I think the Raptors went like 5 minutes without a bucket. There are levels to this. Sometimes a team, when they're undermanned, they band together. You soften up, they harden up. And this is a really good, well-coached team. They don't often beat themselves. They have been inconsistent at times, but again, I think this is another case of the Raptors sort of playing down to the competition, thinking, "Hey, there's no Bam, there's no Tyler Herro. We're gonna have a soft one here." And they were odds-on favorite, and the Raptors as odds-on favorite are never necessarily a good thing. I really don't want to talk about Dennis Schroder, do I? Yikes. If you ever need a reason to just sort of junk plus minus, he is, in terms of the Raptors starters, he leads the Raptors starters with -6, which was the best mark among the starters. He absolutely cratered your offense tonight. He finishes with 9 points on 18 shots. That's hard to do. 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He held the ball way too much, dribbled it way too much, missed opportunities left, right, and center, missed layups, point blank layups, time and time again. I think some didn't even touch rim. And look, man, timing is everything in life, right? So I spent a considerable amount of time on Twitter, Instagram, etc. There was a reel yesterday. I was very upset that Dennis had kind of come out and suggested that he was not this one-on-one player, that he's not very ball dominant, that he doesn't care. Basically presenting somewhat unprompted that he's not a selfish player. And I've always found him to be very ball dominant. I think every fan base that's ever, had to cheer for a team that he's been on would tell you, other than the Lakers last year, that he calls his number way too often. This was always the case. Now, when he was carrying sort of hapless second units and giving you some pesky defense, and you sort of live with the good and the bad. But this would be like Lou Williams, coming out and saying that he's a pass first player. Like nobody's buying that. Everyone knows Lou Williams is a guy who likes to score. Dennis is a guy who likes to score. And his instincts are a guy who likes to hold the basketball. Even when you are down 8 with 35 seconds to go, he still finds a way to sort of walk the ball up. He is a player, in my opinion, that lacks basketball IQ, feel, presence of mind. I think he's someone who lacks finishing talent. I think he's someone who lacks shooting talent. I think he's pretty much a very average point guard in the NBA. I don't think he's a starter. I've been very peeved throughout this year as some people in this fan base have consistently harped on the fact that he is in fact very good. that he is better than Fred VanVleet, that he is, so great for the dollar, and that I'm wrong for criticizing him. Look, man, I understand that a lot of people probably don't watch other teams play. Dennis Schroeder's never played for the Raptors. He's only played for 20 games for the Raptors, now 21. And I don't think it's my job, as an analyst or whatever the hell I am, a YouTuber. I don't think it's my job to cater to anyone's feelings. I rather think it's my job and my duty and obligation to just sort of call it how I see it. And while Dennis Schroeder coming in on the mid-level exception on a sort of prove him, 2-year short deal where he's still going to be he's not going to be so old at the end of this deal that he won't be able to parlay this into a bigger deal if he outperforms this deal. This is a player who's cost himself a lot of money over the last few years, if you want to be completely frank about it. This is a guy who was on a minimum contract last year with the same team that allegedly he had been offered $80+ million to play for just a few years ago. And they had just sort of seen the writing on the wall with him and just decided to go away from him. I said he's on his 6th team. In technical terms, he's on his 7th team right now. You need to understand, there's no personal vendetta against Dennis Schroeder, okay? I just don't think that he's the type of person that you want leading your team. I also don't think he's the type of player that you want leading your offense. I also don't think that he is a lead initiator to begin with. I think he's an off-ball guard who makes some nifty passes once in a while. He also turns the ball over a lot. He also you'll think he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but not being turnover prone means a lot of his attempts might as well be turnovers. When you take a lot of out of rhythm shots where your team isn't set up for transition defense, you're penalizing your own team. I was very inspired to see the Raptors play with Scottie at point because I think it's a recipe for success going forward. Now, there are always drawbacks, right? You give something, you get something, right? With Scottie running point, you get better pace, you get better transition offense, but you get better, you kind of become limited in terms of his ability to break down defenders without a screen, right? Because his handle isn't necessarily shifty enough. You have a really great point of attack defender. His first step isn't quite there. So I understand the criticism. Please understand, I'm not muted. I'm not dumb to it. I'm not blind to it, right? But that's why you need a really great secondary creator next to him. You need a dynamic guard. Like I always mention Cam Thomas, but someone of that ilk. A Jordan Clarkson, just someone who can get downhill, someone who can break down the defense, right? Donovan Mitchell. Not that you get Donovan Mitchell, but someone like that, where he can still do the primary stuff that a point guard is supposed to do, like an Andre Miller, but a much, much, much better version of it, or a Kyle Lowry. But you have somebody else who can do some of the heavy lifting on the scoring side. And I think that would just be so ideal for him. It's not that I don't think that eventually he can get to a 30-point per game score. I just don't think his skill set right now lends itself to that level of offensive output. So, yeah, it's weird. But you need players around him that fit. And too often I find him in lineups with guys like Precious and Boucher at the same time, where I'm just like, oh my gosh. But whenever we see a 2 to 3 minute glimpse of where it is optimized, like you have Gary and OG and Pascal and maybe Boucher, it looks great. And by the way, that would be my projected starting lineup going forward. I think he and Otto have great synergy. I think if you go to NBA.com and you go to lineup data, you can actually go plus minus net rating for 2-man combinations. Go check. Do me a favor and go check who Scottie has positive, net ratings with in terms of 2-man lineups. And it won't surprise you. It's all the same players I'm harping about. It's just most teams don't do this. I mentioned this in the last live as well. Most teams optimize their starting lineup to their best players. If your best players are Scottie and Pascal, this starting lineup is not doing anything for either one of them. I'm just being honest. It's just not. It's just clogging up space. It's creating difficult driving angles. It's making the spacing worse. It makes the cutting less effective. But then, you ask yourself, well, what do you do? Because if you get rid of Jakob, then there goes some of your defense, some of your rebounding, some of your screen setting. some of your playmaking and IQ, I couldn't help but notice that Bobby Webster was there in attendance. I also couldn't help but notice Larry Tannenbaum was there in attendance. And I wonder what those two men think of this roster, especially as they watch the growth. It's hard not to get nostalgic when you watch Kyle Lowry play basketball. And I think to some extent, maybe Kyle Lowry's greatest contribution to the Raptors and to the Raptors fan base has been to show you what a point guard actually is, and let it never be forgotten that that is what a point guard is. I think Kyle Lowry is one of the most perfect point guards in NBA history. And it's specifically because of how many different ways he can play to help his team. So it's not that I don't think that Dennis Schroder is an NBA player, that he's a good NBA player. I just think he's a horrible fit, and I hope that the team adjusts. Anyways, let us bring on Zamper, and then we'll bring on Coach Mo with his, Zamper, what's up?
Hi, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, yeah. My first time calling in. I really appreciate the show and what you do for Raptors media online. I don't know. I don't have anything probably too insightful, but I guess a couple of comments. That was, deeply a deeply unfun, uninspiring game to have to sit through and watch. I guess some of the positives I agree with you that it was really nice to see OG actually switch it up at the rim and be able to finish without, looking incredibly awkward and with a lot of the blunders we're used to seeing when he gets in that area. So I really hope that's something we see that continues. I thought he looked great. I thought, as you said, Pascal, I can't complain about anything he did tonight. Him and OG are really two of the only people that showed up. I'm really disappointed that Precious couldn't continue the good 45 seconds or 2 minutes he had on his first shift there, but I can't say I'm really surprised either at that. There was a point in the third quarter, and I found myself wondering if other fan bases experience this, where you can have two rotation players. So it was somebody got picked and they were going the other way, and it was a 2-on-1 fast break, and it was Precious and Chris running with the ball, and Scotty was trailing behind them. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if other fan bases experience this, where they have two rotation players going on a 2-on fast break. And if I had the ability at that point to pause and put all the money I've ever earned in my entire life that would not result in the basket on that play, I would do that. I would pause and do that. And then Precious picks up his dribble and gets called for a double dribble or something into turnover. And it's just
you carry twice.
Yeah, that just feeling of dread, just knowing that these players are not competent enough to, that 99% of the time I'm almost certain that it's going to end in a bad outcome. I don't know. It's just, and it's not a new feeling either. So yeah, I think there's just a sense of apathy with the fan base that is just being more and more cemented with every stretch of, 1 win, 3 losses, 2 wins, 5 losses, whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty sad state of things, and that's without even touching on Dennis. So
yeah, my thought, I probably should have started out the show with this, but here's a bit of a silver lining on this one, right? Number one, Pascal Siakam played well. So if you are of the mindset of, we need to keep his trade value high, this is definitely a game in the right direction for that, right? In terms of his numbers and whatever. I think that it's minimal at this point. GMs know who he is, right? It's not going to really make too much of a difference, but it was good to see him score this way. Mm-hmm. Because again, if I'm Landry Fields, right? I'm Atlanta, I'm at, Golden State, I'm looking at him right now playing this way. I can fully see this guy moving the needle for my team in my lineup if he plays this way for me. So this was good in that sense, right? There's I think there's been 3 types of Pascal Siakam games, and this is the second time I feel like he played this way. The first one I think was Milwaukee, where he was kind of like this. Mm-hmm. The first win against Milwaukee, where he just played totally within the rhythm of the offense, found his offense kind of off of cuts and dives and smart post-ups. He got doubled a lot tonight. The Heat were sending automatic doubles to him, and he made good reads out of that. So if you were just looking to send like one game of footage to any team out there being like, this is what this guy is, let it be this game. I hope it's this game. So that's one positive. Second positive, obviously, you lose. I mean, if you want change, it's not going to come with this team like 3 games above 500, right? As much as like I would have loved, when the season started for this team, once I saw how they were playing, once I saw who they were starting, how they planned to play, what this season was going to be about, I almost immediately was out. Like about 5-6 games in, I was like, okay, like just get 4 or 5 games under 500 and then start parsing out pieces for picks. I'm good with that, right? But if they were like, for instance, like, can you imagine us being like 25-25, after 50 games? This feels like a front office that's going to go and trade away a few more second round picks to get something, right? So I would hate for that to happen. I think at this point, 21 games in, we kind of understand who these players are, for the most part. We understand that Scotty's taken a big step as a shooter, but maybe he still has another step to take as a ball handler. We understand that Pascal Siakam would probably become a very flawed max player, that OG Anunoby has good and bad moments, but overall, I think has been a really positive contributor. And I think, I have no problem with him being on this team for the next 4 or 5 years. And I think hopefully you can see that the bench is full of a lot of question marks. And I'll be very curious to see, guys like Gradey and Javon Freeman-Liberty step into those roles that are currently being occupied by other players, and just see how they might work.
Yeah, that would be like my next question as well. Like, I think as coming like from a fan perspective, if we've already resigned ourselves to the fact that one of OG and hopefully not OG and Pascal is going to get moved, then like games like tonight where OG and Pascal are really the only players that kind of show up and perform well. If Scotty doesn't perform well, like who else am I looking at to try and glean like any sense of of enjoyment out of the game? Because if we're assuming Pascal is going to get moved, then it's okay, OG and Scotty are our main pieces going forward until we know what we're getting back. And so if Scotty doesn't perform well, then like what am I'm not looking to the bench to try and feel good about any of those performances, because like who knows if they're going to be around. Hopefully some of them won't, and I don't particularly expect any of them to make massive jumps. It was nice to see Gary did play well tonight, and that was nice. So
right.
So that kind of ties into like how much longer do you think, like at this point, like what do we, I know we're only 3 games under 500. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but like at this point, like what do we have to lose by like bringing Gradey up and letting him get some more reps? Like, do you think he needs to, like, how long do you think he needs to stay down there? Like,
well, currently he needs to stay down there because of the condition of the 905. I hate to say it, but like they're massively depleted with injuries. Moji didn't play today. Who else didn't play today? Ron Harper Jr. got injured. Markquis Nowell is still injured with his rib injury, and Grady's like, I think they dressed. I think by the end of it, they had 6 players or 7 players. So I think they have a game tomorrow or the next day. It's against New York as well. So yeah. So I guess after that, his hopefully G League stint would be over. He's not playing like exceptionally well down there. He's just playing better than he started. Like, so good for Gradey to set the bar so low that he can now jump over it by, dropping 23 points. I mean, he's a first round pick, lottery pick, playing in the G League. He should technically be able to drop 25 to 28 points at will down there. So hopefully it's just good for him to get to see the ball go in the basket. I firmly believe that he's the type of player that will actually do better with better players around him. The problem is this offense is not really doing anything for anybody who knows how to play basketball, right? I mean, it's so stagnant. Like, it's so freaking stagnant. It's ridiculous. Like, watching some of these offensive possessions, I'm not saying the Heat are like some beacon of offensive efficiency tonight, but like just seeing, how the Raptors played basketball tonight was just depressing. Yeah. Like, Dennis gets the ball, dribbles it around, throws the ball to Boucher, who's like standing right next to him. Boucher throws it back to Dennis. Dennis then throws it over to OG, who's covered for some reason in the corner. OG takes 2 dribbles, throws it back to Dennis. Like, I mean, my God, like, I really should be a lot calmer about Jack Armstrong in general, because to have to call this, you would lose your mind. No wonder the guy likes to drink so much. Like, I would develop an alcohol problem too. Like, for sure, I would want to drink if I had to call this nonsense.
I thought it was interesting too, actually, very early in the game, when the Raptors were down in the first quarter, Jack and Matt were already making comments that Schroder's got 6 shots up, and the rest of the team combined only has 5
They
already.
continued to be
It
very
was,
critical of
yeah, and
him.
I hadn't noticed them, start to point stuff like that out about Dennis, especially not that early in the game. So I thought that caught my attention, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping that my reel would go viral. It didn't. My reel about Dennis. I mean, look, like I spent a weird amount of time, like a couple of days ago, and even yesterday, doing a lot of reading on psychology of what people communicate without realizing what they're communicating, body language, s- cues, like patterns, things that people say. To be honest with you, like things like that, right? So there's this weird thing where this area of basketball is so under scrutinized because typically it's so irrelevant, right? It doesn't really matter. But with the Raptors and the state of dysfunction that they've been in, sometimes it becomes really interesting to listen to what these players are actually saying, because sometimes they're saying one thing and doing something completely different. And so listening to Dennis just sort of go out of his way unprompted, yesterday, to just let us know how unselfish and how team first and how non one-on-one he is. I'm like, oh shit, he's heard it. He's already heard it and he's trying to get ahead of it. Um, but just like with Fred VanVleet last year, the more he tries to prove he's not, the more he proves he is. It's a weird quicksand thing, right? So like Fred VanVleet last year, you heard him often addressing these phantom critiques of his, right? Which were really mostly coming from one direction. And he'd be like, fans don't know anything about basketball. And then it's just like, you're trying to argue against a ghost because you can't mention who I am. And you're just going on and on about this thing that's just making people more and more focused on what you're talking about. And it is quicksand. It's absolutely quicksand, because there's no way for someone to point something out about you that's true. Objectively, it is true about you. And then it provokes this feeling of, now I got to defend it. So he's coming out and saying he's not selfish, he's not one-on-one, which actually just makes people pay more attention to it. And then he comes out and plays like this, and now people are like going crazy about it. And trust me, once you get this reputation, it's very, very difficult to erase it. He's had this reputation around NBA circles forever, but now he's got it among Raptor circles. Like, that was a broadcast. There are certain games that I think people don't watch or barely watch. Kyle Lowry coming back to Toronto in what could be one of his last games, of his career, is a game that a lot of people watched. I can firmly bet that. So to put up this performance in this game, with the broadcast crew questioning your shot taking, shot making, and basically basketball decision making, over dribbling at every step from quarter 1 to quarter 3 to quarter 4, I mean, this is how you don't come back, right?
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I'll say before I let you get into other callers here,
Sure.
I like, throughout the season, you've rightfully, I guess, like, pointed out, like, even some of Dennis's games where the box score might look really good. There's a reason, and teams are generally going to live and die by
Mhm.
Dennis taking those shots. And some nights, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. And then some nights, I thought he was pretty efficient, but obviously I'm probably turning the corner on that. But one thing I never disagreed with you was, I can't see that you would ever want this guy to be, and it's nothing, I don't hate him personally or anything, but I agree. I don't know how you could want this guy to be the culture setter in your locker room, the leader in your locker room. And I feel like there's a sense, like, just having grown up playing sports, when you have that guy on your team that tries to be that person without, being able to back it up in multiple ways, it doesn't inspire confidence. It puts a weird air in the locker room around the team.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's what you want moving forward. And I really, really hope that Masai and Bobby, have the cojones or the foresight to sell high on Dennis. And I hope that the relationship he has with Darko, and not wanting to sever that, doesn't cloud their vision on what's going to happen in the coming months here.
I mean, to be completely fair, it's him who's come out and made a very, very, very big point about this Darko relationship. I mean, if you view it from the perspective of him being a politician, this is literally like his own war on drugs crime. You know, like he from day one, I don't think he's had a single interview where he has not talked about how close he is with the coaching staff. That is very weird. First of all, read the room. Okay, we've lost him. We will get to Coach Mo, but let me just finish my thought here. In terms of like just how you frame ideas and situations, it's typically like a really bad thing when someone is defensive about something that you have never accused them of, or they are not being asked about directly, right? I think one thing that I learned over the last 2 days as I was doing more digging about nonverbal cues and even verbal cues that people sometimes slip is that all of us want to tell the truth. When we're talking, all of us want to tell the truth. But like deep down, when I say like subconsciously, we're trying to tell the truth. So we might say something that implicates us without realizing that we're implicating ourselves. And so this is where people say it's a bit quack science, right? I'm not an FBI investigator. I'm not really trained to to dissect this stuff, but I have a pretty good read on when someone's telling the truth or when someone has like good intentions when it pertains to a particular objective. And Dennis coming in, something about the vibe and the words and what he was saying and how he was saying it just felt very disconnected. When people sometimes rehearse their story too hard, it feels forced and inauthentic. And that's something where it's like when someone does too much, you know what I mean? Like it's even a date thing. Like you on a date, like here's I think a perfect example like that anyone could understand. You go on a date, right? With somebody, let's say you're a girl, you go on a date with a dude, and the guy is just like within 5 minutes has told you his entire life story, everything he owns. You're like, why are you so defensive? Why are you so insecure? Insecurity shows like big time, you know? And when you have to tell me every single interview that you're the leader, you're here to set the culture, you're here because you have a great relationship with the coaches, to me, this shows insecurity. I don't want my leaders to be insecure. I want my leaders to be self-assured and humble. They're qualities that I look for in leaders. He possesses almost none of them. So whoever elected this guy leader, take a new straw poll after 21 games. I guarantee you he ain't the leader. All right. Okay. Let's get Coach Mo on. Coach Mo, what up, man?
First thing I want to say is shout out to the barber that did that cut.
Yep, absolutely.
And I also want to say, Rob, you were early. I was early. We were calling the Dennis thing out early. It's about process, not result.
Bro, I need to hear from FA tonight. I need to hear from FA, and I'm gonna read FA's. And I'm not gonna out FA like this. I
don't care if Dennis made all his shots tonight. Garbage. I don't care. Now, let me go in on Dennis. Dennis doesn't want to win. He wants to be the reason we win. And he wants to parlay that monetarily any way he can.
But he's a world champion.
He's chasing that 80 million plus he lost with the Lakers. And he saw what Fred did last year. He probably believes he's better than Fred. Dennis is smart. He's manipulative. Like you said, he brought that thing up without prompted. Like he's telling on himself. And
facts.
Like you have to ask yourself, why is he giving Will Lou and the media so much access? Just ask yourself why. Why is he doing that? Right? What I want you guys to understand is starting from the 17-18 year, that's 7 years. He's played for 6 teams. He switched teams 7 times. From ages 23 to 30, prime years for an undersized guard. Ask yourself why. No multi-year contract since his rookie extension until we gave him one at age 30. Ask yourself why. This year, a journeyman bench player, career highs in 3-point attempts, assists per game. Second highest career in minutes per game since he was a starter in LA that 1 year. Most field goal attempts.
How good was that team, by the way?
Most field goal attempts in 4 years. Okay. Most points per game in 5 years. right?
Mm-hmm.
We've paid him multiple times over what he was getting last time, and we give him a starting job. We give him closing duties, homeless shelter, Make-A-Wish Foundation franchise, letting people live out their dreams. This is like Mike. He's living his like Mike dream without the shoes.
Just fucking like Mike. Just went
No
bow wow
shoes.
on it.
Yeah, no shoes. He's playing there barefoot. Listen, that article I sent you about the Boston Celtics, bro, some of the things that the article said, early in the season, things were good. This guy talks the talk. Okay, again, he switched 7 teams in 7 years. He comes and he talks. He scores 38 that year in Boston. Early in the year, 38 against the contender Bucks. The article says he's a score-first point guard who lets the offense struggle looking for his instead of keeping the offense clicking. The Celtics eventually moved on looking for players that fit their core and style of play.
Can I do you a favor? Can I do you a favor? And I'll do the chat a favor too, because this article is amazing, and I'm actually going to pull it up. I'm going to read it. Okay. Do you mind? Okay.
Go ahead. Read it.
Okay. So this is, by the way, to anyone who thinks this is like from super long ago, this is literally a year ago. Okay. This is February 3rd, 2022. Okay. So literally a little bit over a year and a half ago. The Boston Celtics and Dennis Schroder are on a collision course approaching the trade deadline. What happened? Okay. The Boston Celtics have started to turn a corner, winning 10 of their last 14 games. With Jason Tatum rediscovering his shot and Marcus Smart's return, the team is looking to make some noise in the second leg of the season. Celtics head coach Ime Udoka is beginning to trim his rotations down and fine-tune his lineups, and one of the players who's on the outside looking in seems to be Dennis Schroder. Since arriving in Boston, Schroder has been arguably the most polarizing player on the Celtics. Signed at the 5.9 mid-level exception for just this season, the German native joined the Celtics in the offseason and will most likely be unretainable for Boston due to their current cap responsibilities. Because of his status as a rental, Schroder has become a popular trade target across the league, with the deadline almost a week away. When first arriving in Boston, Schroder's main impact came as a scoring option to help off the bench and serve as a spark plug for the second unit. With the team struggling offensively, Schroder's scoring ability soon pushed the conversation towards a bigger role for a veteran guard. He found himself as an integral part of Boston's rotation. Some of his scoring bursts had helped the Celtics win games, especially his season-high 38 points against the Milwaukee Bucks back in November. As the season went on, the Celtics struggled to find consistency. Some issues about Schroder's fit on the team became clear. Schroder and Smart didn't fit together due to Schroder's needs as a primary ball handler and Smart's shooting. And Schroder's tendency to get tunnel vision soon grew to undeniable levels. More whispers of Schroder being on the block again began to spread, and Ime Udoka notably started to stray away from him. The Schroder-Celtics honeymoon phase was over in a flash, and now it seems like the veteran has all but checked out on the team in the last month. Through Boston's first 48 games, Schroder was the only inactive for 7 games due to COVID and injury. In those 41 games, he played under 20 minutes once. In each of his last 5 games, Schroder has played less than 18 minutes. Okay, so it goes on to say a big part of his drop-off can be attributed to Schroder's fit alongside Marcus Smart. Boston's lead guard is playing some of the best basketball of his career, serving as a primary ball handler alongside Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Due to Smart's limitations as a shooter and as much-needed playmaking ability, he's taken a big chunk of the minutes at point guard, and Coach Udoka has been forced to make some changes in the lineup combinations. Schroder operates as a score-first guard who needs the ball in his hands to be effective, so pairing him with Marcus Smart came with disastrous results. Shooting struggled, and when Schroder would focus on getting his own looks instead of keeping the offense clicking, the team suffered. To anyone who wants to read this, it's the CelticsBlog.com. Go read it. It's a pretty long article. I think it's very true to form. This person is not hating on Schroder, just like I'm not hating on Schroder. We're just calling it out. Like, there are players like this in the NBA that simply just, they don't play winning basketball. And I think that there's a bit of a perfect storm where he comes off the win with Germany. There's a lot of like luster, and everyone's just like, these media people, right? Like, you got to understand their job is to get engagement. right? I mean, shout out to Amit Man, for Yahoo Sports and everyone who just got laid off at Yahoo Sports Canada. Yahoo Sports Canada is done. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's done. It went out of business. Great way to spend the holidays. So no more CJ Miles, no more Amit Man, none of those guys, right? These media companies are falling down one by one. I think CBC is announcing some cuts. This is a tough time. So when a guy comes in and he says, hey, like, this is a big show, this is a big platform, it's accredited, let me get on here so that I can control the narrative, right? Because these guys are ultimately the guys who are going to be either calling me out or not calling me out. If I give them access and I come on their show, maybe they'll be a little nicer to me. You know what I mean? He read the fucking Fred VanVleet playbook to a T. Yeah, Fred VanVleet played very nice with the media as well. And while I understand it, I'm not necessarily saying the media is at fault here. At the end of the day, these people just want to feel like they're making a difference. They want to feel important, right? You know what I mean? Like, they want to feel like, oh yeah, like we are someone. And if you don't fuck with them, like if you just kind of like brush them off, you don't want to do the media engagement stuff, they're going to write bad stuff about you because they're petty and vindictive people, So at the end of the day, like, this guy's he's grinding my gears a lot because unlike with Fred, I don't even respect his game that much.
Nope.
Like with Fred, I respected his game. He's a two-way player. I hated the way he was playing last year. But prior to that, I just had an issue with his attitude towards his younger teammates. Even in my video last year where I said the 7 players that I would keep in case we traded for Kevin Durant, he was one of the players I would keep. I wouldn't keep Dennis Schroder if we had Kevin Durant. So, like, that's my point. Like, again, FA with all the fucking DMs, but Schroder is better than, Fred VanVleet. And I was just like, bro, stop. And I got so angry because y'all had me defending a player that I don't even like that much in Fred VanVleet. And I was defending him so hard. I'm like, oh my God, don't go there. Like, these are not comparable players. I mean, Dennis Schroder was out of a fucking rotation in Boston.
Bro.
You know what I mean?
On a game like today, where like this will let you know how little of a point guard this guy is. He can't make a shot. He's 4 for 18. OG and Pascal are scorching. They each have 13 shots. He has 18. This guy is horrible, and he's selfish. And I said, and again, I'm going to say it again. He doesn't want to win. He wants to be the reason we win. Yeah, and today is evidence of that. Also, Darko, if there was ever a game to bench him, if there was ever a game to sit him in the fourth quarter, it was today. Darko is a glorified babysitter, and the only guy he has balls to bench is Scotty. He benched Scotty at the 8 minutes and 30 mark, which I'm actually cool with. The only reason why I'm not cool with it is because you never do that to Dennis, right? So it's like it means nothing. He's
benched Siakam like for an entire fourth quarter. He's actually never. I don't think he's ever benched Scotty per se. I mean, he sort of undercuts. He sort of cut Scotty's rhythm a lot.
You sit him at the 8 minute 30 mark in the third quarter, bro.
In the third quarter, yeah, no, that's fair.
That was super quick. And
no, that was quick.
Here's another question.
He wasn't playing well.
No, he wasn't playing well. He wasn't playing well, and I'm not necessarily beefing with that decision. I just know he won't make that decision with certain players. Another thing, Bam Adebayo wasn't playing today. What was the offense is struggling? He called 2 timeouts in the first quarter and came out with the exact same lineup. What was Jakob's purpose while we were struggling? What was the matchup there? This idea that Jakob and Dennis have to play is absolute insanity. This was a game where you bring Boucher quick. Or you bring Precious off quick, or Gary and just go small. But again, this coach, bro, this might have been the worst coached game I've ever seen by a professional coach in years.
Horrible. It's pretty bad.
And this guy calls timeouts and does his little walk to the free throw line like he's about to do something. Bro, you're going to go into the huddle and say, have some fun. You're going to say, play hard. You're going to say family. And then you're gonna just hand the ball to Dennis, bro. Get out of here. I'm almost done with these two. Like Dennis
I will say this though. I will say
Dennis
this.
And Darko can go to Washington and do their Dollar Tree Larry Brown and Allen Iverson impersonation in Washington.
Okay, I will say this though. I don't think Darko's going to be buying that dinner anytime soon.
Oh hell no.
Anyways, all right,
Give me
peace,
pizza,
man.
pizza.
I gotta get
We'll
some
order
more
these guys a
callers.
cheese pizza, pizza.
Absolutely, this is the
Bro,
big.
by the
They
way,
deserve a Big Mac.
Pascal had probably the best game of the year, and
I
this
agree.
guy's still
He played
he's
awesome.
still trying to play like he's the Harlem Globetrotters. Like it's just, bro. Until Darko does something about Dennis or the front office has to save their coach from himself or fire him. Because this is lunacy. This is.
I mean, firing a coach this early is not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen. No, it's not gonna
I would bet any amount of money that Darko Rajakovic is not getting fired this year.
No.
But if
It ain't
he
a good start.
continues to play, if the team continues to struggle, certainly, he's not above being fired by next offseason. I hope he's not. But
No.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not liking
Anyway,
Darko's face. Some guy said I don't like Darko's face. I don't like it.
Like Steve Stevens, what kind of criticism is this? I don't like this guy's face. Like who are you, man?
It's just frustration. Like he just.
I get it. Anyways, final thoughts, man.
I didn't like Nurse's face until the end. Like he started to not like his face.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are coaches. They're not male models.
Yeah. Right.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, it was a good loss. We need.
There we go. Exactly.
Good loss, and Dennis played bad. Scotty played bad. That was the worst part. Like the recipe right now is Scotty played well and we lose. That's the recipe. That's what we need.
Yeah. All right, man. Peace. Have a good one. Thank you for bringing the haircut onto the live. Appreciate it, man. Cheers. All right, recruiter dude, what's up?
How you doing, by the way?
I'm all right. How are you doing? I'm actually good. I'm good actually. How are you?
I was just sort of like reminiscing about some of the lives that I really enjoyed, especially like the preseason lives, and
because they were optimistic.
Like I was talking myself into like, I mean, this could be sort of like, maybe some kind of underdog or like not a dark horse, but like a team that could find its way. And it's early, but like they can't be this bad, Rob, right? I know we all try to prognosticate the best we can, but like it's unwatchable, right? Like, well, what are your thoughts on this? I listened to the other live, and you were basically saying blow the whole fucking thing up. Excuse my language, and I agree. Like, it's time to just get some picks, because and then the problem is what Coach Mo said, I think it was the other day. Like, what are the value contracts that we really have, right? And like you had 4 days rest. I think someone said in the chat, like, what were they doing in 4 days? If Siakam had a good game, but I mean, what I want him doing in 4 days, I want him putting up 1,000 threes a day. That's basically what I want him to do.
He made his only one. That's all I can ask for. He made 1 for 1. If he does this every single game, if he plays like this every single game, I'll tell you right now, if he plays this way every single game, you're probably like 3 games over 500 instead of 3 games under 500. That's how big a difference this performance was from his usual performance. He was efficient. He got double teamed and he reacted well to it. Right. Yeah, it's just guys don't make shots. Guys don't cut in the right places. It's like, what do you do? This offense is so disjointed, so stagnant. You wonder, like, why? Why does it? Like, I've watched Division III teams run fast breaks that are more cohesive and more sure than the Raptors. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen a team screw up fast breaks more often than this team. There's always something that goes wrong. Someone's going to throw a charge, throw the ball out of bounds, carry the ball, travel, miss a layup, point blank. What is the new way to miss a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, or 4-on-2 opportunity this game is usually like a game that I play with myself. It's just, I think the best way to say it is it's a lack of basketball IQ. It's a lack of understanding of how you want to play. You need better players who can play this way. It's ironic that we are on the 10-year anniversary of the Rudy Gay trade, because I think with the Rudy Gay trade, while there was not a lot of hoopla about the 4 pieces that came back, one thing I can't say enough is that the 4 players you got back all knew how to play basketball. They were all like pretty well coached players, right? Patrick Patterson, Gravis Vasquez, John Salmons. They were all like very intelligent basketball players. For whatever reason, I don't know if they targeted those 4 players specifically, or if it was just let me just get off Rudy Gay's contract to give me back whatever you want to give me. But they were just smarter than your average bear. And so I look around the league and I think about smart players, and I'm like, man, like, what if you just had like 6 or 7 of those players in place of some of the players that you currently have? And I suspect that your offense would look a lot better. That, sometimes it's like it's your system, but sometimes it's your personnel. And I think more so than anything, I've listened to Darko talk about basketball a long time, man. I've read papers by him. He knows how to coach. He knows how to design an offense. He's actually quite great at that. He's like a very good X's and O's coach. So for this team to run this way, it just, to me, signals that they have players who don't know how to play basketball.
No, but Coach Mo just brought up the point earlier. I mean, if and I agree, like he has a lot of wisdom despite being like, this is his first head coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he has a tremendous experience, but like in light of that, why is Schroder playing in the 4th quarter to end games? There has to be, I mean, of course he's not flawless, obviously, but he's seeing what we're seeing. I mean, it was complete debauchery. And the hardest thing for me to watch that entire game was to see Scotty like walk back into the tunnel, and like I was like, oh my god, this kid is really taking these losses hard. Like everyone else, like the camera was panning and like they're hugging Lowry and like cool,
Yep.
and Prince there, and Scotty's just completely distraught, and he's supposed to be the young leader. And I guess there's a silver lining, like, okay, like, he freaking cares. At the same time, this team needs to make moves. And if we torpedo this thing and he has to like basically play with a bunch of kids, like how long would he put up with it? And I remember you said that last year. I remember we were talking about getting rid of Fred and then Pascal. It was all these trade Pascal lives, and you're like, guys, just so you know, this losing, like consecutive losing years would Scotty would go crazy. He would go freaking crazy, and I worry about that, honestly. Yeah,
I would too, and I think that's fair. But I think he's smart enough to understand that if they're playing the right way and they're losing the right way, that he'll probably live with it. I don't speak for him, but I've kind of watched him long enough to know that like this is a guy who's won a lot of games, but they didn't win like the national title at, the national championship at Florida State. He certainly didn't sulk. He was a really good, I mean, there was like one time where he was like upset with coaches at all. And I think he apologized to them like literally the next minute. He doesn't take losing well, for sure. But I think he doesn't take losing basketball process well. Like there were times tonight where he was open, didn't get the ball. He's not blameless tonight. As much as I feel bad for anyone taking a hard loss, he also didn't play well. There were times where, he needed to be assertive. Then I also empathize too. Like, where do you want him to go? Like to anyone who says, just go drive. Like this offense is turning him into, a jump shooter because there's no space to go in. All the spaces are taken, right? It's like it's hard to explain to someone who maybe hasn't ever played basketball or doesn't really understand basketball very well that it's not pickup basketball. You don't just get to isolate your man one-on-one and just go at him. You know what I mean? That's just not the way NBA offense can ever work, especially now when offenses are so sophisticated and defenses are so good that you really do need to smash a couple of combinations in terms of, off-ball action and, to get the things going. And so for him, a player, I mean, I'm watching even Kevin Durant, and how many things have to go right for the Suns, from Nurkic to Beal to not Beal, to Eric Gordon to Devin Booker, to do something to get out of his way, And yeah, not everyone is Steph Curry. Not everyone could just launch from 45 feet, no matter what their offensive teammates are doing. It's tough. It's tough. It's really tough for him to find his spots within this offense. Things are just not moving in a predictable way. He's standing there in the pinch post, expecting a guy to cut. The guy doesn't cut. One guy does cut, can't catch the ball. Like, it's so frustrating watching it that I can only imagine how frustrating it must be to play that way. So I think really more so than anything, you just need to put smart basketball players around him that aren't constantly making dumb mistakes. If they're not effective, it's fine. Gradey is not effective right now, but he's not making dumb mistakes. He's physically incapable of staying in front of his man, but he doesn't lose his man. He's not forgetting how to, he just can't get there. He's not taking stupid shots. He's just not making his shots. There is a complete difference into the level of frustration that I would feel as a player watching my teammate. Like when Dennis Schroder drove into a collapsed paint, like with two defenders, and there's like a clear opening where he should have passed to the corner and he didn't. Instead, chose to drive. So when you see that turnover, it's completely different than dribbling it off your foot by accident. You know what I mean? Which is like a mistake of like, oops, whereas like this was like a mistake of your mind. Like there's nothing good that can come from driving into 2.5 defenders if you're Dennis Schroder having a cold night, but you're going to do it anyway. You know what I mean? So I think what would frustrate him would be like the Houston Rockets last year, where everyone just fucking does whatever the hell they want, and there's all this losing basketball and no one's playing defense. But I genuinely believe like he would support playing on a team that's just playing the right way and has just good guys, like good team first guys who are trying to do the right things, like OG, like Otto, like Jakob.
I think he is like he's obviously older than spiritually anyway. Like I agree with you. Than his age would say, but I don't want to take it for granted, right? Because ultimately, whatever moves are made before the deadline, I would hope that they would talk to him about it, because he is. He is the de facto or the leader of this team. Maybe not explicitly, or maybe it is explicitly. Masai said as much, right? So what? Yeah. Because I think this balance of being competitive but also development and then trying to find some like good value players is in balance with like what his competition sort of vigor, right? Like I think the best of Scotty was that Philly series, even though he was injured, but like he had a taste of like, good playoff basketball. And I was so optimistic in his rookie season. I thought, okay, we have something here.
Right.
And then everything just basically fell off a cliff in his sophomore year, mostly not his doing. And now we're in year 3, and I have like this empty pit in my stomach. Like it feels like last year. Well, last year was a lot of just Fred just basically like shooting us out of games, literally, right? Mm-hmm. And now we're in a new situation, and it's like parts of the team have gotten dumber. Sorry to use such a crude language, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? And that's probably basically a new system and a combination of things. But it's like, where the fuck do you go from here? Because honestly, like I don't see any value on this roster right now. Like I wouldn't buy any of these players right now.
Not even OG.
OG, I would, but then basically, if you sell OG, then you're basically telling like everyone like it's done, like that's it. Like OG for picks, because you can't. What are you getting back, right? Again, I know there's going to be a lot of trade shows, like there's going to be a lot of talk about that. I'm not going to ask you any trade questions. In fact, I probably said too much, but it's like we're basically going in. The last time I called you, it's like, how do we keep our sanity? Like we're going in circles, right? Like the offense has got like major problems. There's team chemistry problems. There's serious rotation problems. Too many of the same types of players. No one's a hooper. No one can create their own shot, right? And now we're clinging at straws. Like, oh, if we remove Dennis, that's a step. Like, well, oh, thank God. Yes, I don't like. No one likes Dennis right now. Yes, put Trent there, but like, okay, put Trent there. Are we actually like even a 500 team, or is this whole thing like a mirage? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you would be a 500 team. I think by necessity. See, like basketball is a little bit like Bop It, which is ironic because the Raptors played Bop It the other day for social media, which was kind of funny. Basketball is very much like Bop It. So, to those of you who are not familiar with Bop It, I'm assuming you are familiar with Bop It, right?
I am familiar with Bop It, yeah.
Yeah, great for hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
But I will say this: when Scotty was running point, who by almost virtue of default became the secondary ball handler? Precious Achiuwa, right? When you take things off the plate, you have to go in different directions. It's almost like, limiting your bad choices. When Dennis Schroder is on the court, invariably, because he hunts for the basketball so often, he will get the ball in his hands a lot in positions he probably isn't good with it. So by taking Scotty Barnes into the starting lineup as a point guard, putting Dennis on the bench, putting Gary, and Gary's not interested in initiating your offense at all. So what it would immediately do is it would force development reps for Scotty at this position. Now, whether you foresee him as a future point guard or a point forward, this can never be a bad thing. Developing this part of his game, which is weaker, handling the ball under pressure, it would be good. It would be good for him. He's certainly 1,000 times better at it than Jeremy Sohan ever will be right now. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, in place of Precious, who would become the automatic secondary ball handler in that situation? Pascal Siakam, which would be good for Pascal as well because he's not shooting well. The third thing is the tertiary ball handler or the third ball handler would become OG. With Gary and Jakob being your low usage, high shot attempt guys, and these three being more of your creators, you're more or less like taking out, you're amplifying the best players on your roster and giving them what they need. And even if Jakob was not in this lineup and Boucher was in this lineup, it would be even better, in my opinion, because you lose some of the screen setting, but you get a lot more transition and switchability. So, and you get spacing. Most importantly, you get spacing. But with Dennis out and Gary in, you get spacing as well. Like it was not a shock to me at all to see Gary trying to step on the court and the Raptors went on a 10-0 run. He didn't touch the ball. Yeah. He didn't even touch the ball. He didn't need to. Because he has so much gravity. He is a shooter. People know him as a shooter. Dennis is a non-shooter. People know him as a non-shooter. So how often is Dennis open for threes? Has he been contested for a three all year? Like maybe very rarely. Like teams are daring him to shoot and they don't care. They don't care. There's no math. There's no calculus in the world that tells me that if I'm an opposing coach, like I'll tell you right now, if I'm an opposing coach, if I'm Eric Spoelstra, let's say Eric Spoelstra and, let's just say they're like, hey, Rob, Make-A-Wish Foundation, we're going to let you coach against the Raptors tonight. This is your first NBA coaching job. My entire game plan would be, I want Dennis taking 25 shots. So push the ball out of everyone's hands, put the ball in this guy's hands for creation opportunities, and live with the results. My bet would be that he's going to shoot 10 for 25 and cost them the game. It's a great game plan. Any smart coach would coach against the Raptors this way. If you choose your options, why would you want the ball in Pascal or Scotty's hands? You know what I mean? So it's just, it's taking out that default of, basketball players just wanting to throw it to the shortest player. Taking that out, forcing Scotty into the point guard role, a role that he has succeeded at many times, including the playoff series that you alluded to, where the only two games that we've ever won in the last 4 years in the playoffs. Yeah. He played point for both those games. And Chris Boucher played the majority of minutes at center for those games. There is a lineup here that works. but it involves Javon Freeman-Liberty getting healthy and playing in place of Malachi Flynn. It involves Scotty and Gary starting as your backcourt, and probably involves fewer minutes for Jakob Poeltl, where he's not a featured guy. I would love to see a bench lineup where Jakob is a featured offensive player. Like, that would be interesting to me. Like, if Darko Rajovic is listening to this at any point, and I know that I have friends who know him, so clip this little bit out and send it to him. If you really want Dennis Schroder and Jakob Poeltl to run a pick and roll, it will be much more successful coming off your bench. Like, if you want that to be your offense, it's going to be much more successful with Otto and Javon Freeman-Liberty and those guys.
Wasn't this the game to do that? I mean, or try something different because Bam was out?
Sure, absolutely.
Like,
And yeah, I mean, they had no size. I mean, how like, and I mean, Scotty's touch around the rim was just abysmal today. Like, it just feels like maybe he was out of rhythm. Maybe he didn't touch a basketball for like a few days and he just wanted to get right and get healthy. And it showed. Like, there was just rust. He felt rusty. His shot felt rusty. He felt a little unsure. Like, I haven't seen Scotty unsure of a shot all year. So as the game went on and he was building up steam, then it started to feel like, oh, right, this is how I shoot a basketball again. I have questions about how this team gets prepared prior to games. Like, they have come out with slow starts way too often for a team that often does it at home. Like, you should be like coming out with so much energy at home, and they're coming out with zip energy almost every single night. And I just don't get it. It's really weird.
I'm not expecting like them to ever blow anybody out or maintain 20-point leads or anything, but as bad as Scotty was tonight, I still thought he was passable in the fourth quarter, and he was trying to make some things happen. And Dennis basically single-handedly cost us the game. You know,
I think he did.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, thanks a lot for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Okay. Before we let Andre and Lane on for a final conversation, anyone else want to come on and hop on that call? I'm going to post the link right. Wait, nope, that's not it. I'm going to play a quick video from Danny Green as we await the post game, which is not up yet, but I have so many questions. If it ever does go up, I would love to hear it. But Danny Green had some really interesting comments about where he thinks the Raptors are going. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's a 3-minute clip and I think it's worth listening to. So I'm going to play it.
That this would be the last season of having any remnants of the championship Raptors. AKA, is it time to finally wrap this thing up, start from anew?
If I'm a fan, I'm extremely worried that those because I think it's pretty much over after this season. And that's a pretty good run of keep, because it's been for 5 years since we had the title. So within 2 or 3 years, most of the team is gone. Have you seen Devin Booker? They went to the finals a couple of years ago, and he's the only person left in the Phoenix Suns team. So yeah, Toronto, I think if as a fan, if you're worried about trying to keep those guys, yeah, it's going to be very unlikely. I think they're going to be moving on to different, situations. But, the expectations for that team were very high when Fred left. And even with Fred there, they weren't expected to be, contenders, but at least a playoff team. So my worry meter for them staying is very high, but worry meter with the expectation is not very high for this group. I think they're going to do what they're expected to do, if not better, because they've been playing well, and Schroder has been great for them as a pickup and replacement for Fred so far. Not that he's replacing Fred, but he's come in and stepped in and done a really good job in that role.
I know Masai Ujiri and Bobby Wester have come under fire for some of their managerial moves over the past couple of years. For example, Fred VanVleet just left, nothing in return. Norman Powell just left, nothing in return.
Look at Gary Trent. There's a trade for Gary Trent.
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad. Who's the other person? Oh, Kyle.
It's so funny that he's talking to one of the players that left for nothing and he doesn't know it. It's hilarious. But yes.
Kyle Lowry left, got nothing in return. And obviously now Pascal Siakam going into
there was I think Kyle was a trade, was a sign and trade, because I think that got Precious, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Who else?
Not as much as you would like to get in return for the.
You're talking to him. This is the funniest thing. Okay, I promise it gets a little bit better. Yes, before he realizes that Marcus Gasol, Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, and Serge Ibaka exist. Let me just push it forward a little bit.
Had to fight for. They fought
Danny
for
Green.
it.
Danny Green left.
That's so
You
funny.
didn't get nothing in return for you.
Yeah,
You just
I
left.
don't think they felt they had Norm. They still had Norm. They had good pieces there. They
Yeah.
didn't need to. They had replacements already for your boy.
Yeah, well, put it like this: one way or another, if I know the sentiment is that they could have done a bit better in retaining or retrieving talent for some of the talent they let get out the building.
For sure.
But that's
Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, those guys.
yes. Yeah. And honestly, and what I wanted to say eventually was that Pascal Siakam is not making it easy for them to get anything in return for him. They were just thinking about trading him this before the trading deadline. The way he's performing right now, it's not the type of return that you would have hoped for a guy who you was basically slotted to be your number one star after the championship title there in Toronto.
Okay, I'm just gonna shoot my shot. Danny Green, if you need a co-host, hit me up. I think we would ping pong very well. Maybe that's egotistical of me, but I cannot be worse than this dude. I literally cannot be. I could be drunk on like 16 vodka shots, and I don't think I would be that clueless about basketball. But nevertheless, I digress. Does that make me more likable, less likable? Probably a lot less likable. I don't even care. All right, let's hear from OG Anunoby, and then after that, we're gonna bring on Andre, Lane, and Jonathan Convoy. Oh, this should be a very interesting discussion with three of my favorite guests. All right,
first quarters and tonight the third quarter. Do you have an explanation for why sometimes they're so slow?
No explanation. I mean, we know about it. We try not to do. We try to come out better. Yeah, I don't know. Just.
Darko said tonight you thought it was maybe lack of discipline. Do you sense that, or you see it?
Maybe lack of. I don't know. I have to watch the game again. But we're aware of it. We make a big emphasis, especially in the huddle. I mean, during halftime, to come out strong, and when we go out on the court to warm up and come out strong in the third quarter. So, we're just gonna keep trying again on Friday.
So how frustrating is it when you talk about it at the half and then come out and slow start again?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's pretty frustrating. So we're just gonna.
Bro, I'm dying. The only thing worse than watching these games, unfortunately, is listening to these questions. I think like what I need to do is when Andre and Lane come on, I need to ask them similar questions in the same vein. Like be like, Andre, how was your day? Was it a bad day? Why was it a bad day? How do you feel about having a bad day? Was a bad day bad? Would you like to have more bad days or less bad days next time? Talk about bad days. Yo, man, this is some real, like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's bad. All right, continue on.
Gotta watch the film, see what we messed up on, what we can do better, and just try to end it and start coming out stronger in the third quarters.
You've had some really mobile finishes on the drive recently. How do you work on stuff like that? Like, how do you tactically get better at those drag steps and like offhand finish?
Shit. Help me. Okay, am I wrong? Or are these questions like really, really like what is that round thing? Like, y'all ever seen, okay, I want to just say this. Y'all ever seen like Ali G interview NBA players and he's asking them like the most ridiculous questions? He has this one with Kobe. It'd be like, how come, what was it with Kobe? It was like the ball, right? He's like, how many springs on a basketball? And then Kobe's like, there's no springs, it's air. He's like, well, there's air in this room. How come this room ain't bouncing? And then just looking at each other, like these questions feel like that, except they're not funny. I don't know. I'm just like, fuck.
From watching film, watching other players, and then in practice, trying my best to simulate it with the coaches, and trying to like try to make the finishes tougher, and have like bodies hitting me and bodies in the paint, and just try to maneuver and figure it out.
Who are some players you watch to get better?
Luka.
This guy's like, How do I get better at finishing layups? OG, I got like a rec league. I'm trying to win MVP of my rec league, bro. Like what videos are you watching, OG, so I can get better on my reverse finish? Jesus.
Butler, yeah, guys like really good finishers.
Since the first 10 games, the team as a whole has slipped a bit.
You know what I would hope? Like, I just imagine this. If I had the talent to be a player, I wish I could attend one of these media scrums and listen to some of these questions and I would answer them, but like dead ass, like straight face, but like with the most hilarious answers ever. To be like, who do you watch for your acrobatic finishes? I don't know, Rudy Gobert and Dwayne Dedman. Like I would go to the complete opposite extreme, you know, like who do you watch for your shooting inspiration? Ben Simmons, every day, all day. Just fuck. We need Kevin Hart, man.
Are there one or two areas where you really sense the problems are happening more than others?
No, maybe miscommunications, like maybe like a late call, they don't hear it in time, and then two people on the ball, one guy's open, then it's just trickle down effect. They throw it to him, there's an open shooter, and then like it just.
Is there any reason why that would happen more as the year goes on? Right, like you would think the communication would get better as the year goes on.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. We're just gonna try to figure it out via film and then in practice as well, and just try to carry it over to the next game.
OG's finishing has been really impressive this year. I don't know the numbers, but he's had some really smooth finishes, drives to the rim. Have you seen that sort of improving around the edges in practice and everything?
Yeah, no, I see him working. He's working on that stuff. I think just like more speed in his drive, like just catch and goes a little quicker. Something that, you know, like we kind of talked about, and I've seen him work on them, like just kind of like be more decisive on the drives and have a little head of steam, like once you drive it, you know, instead of like trying to dribble and then drive. You know, he's like, you know, strong, athletic, so he's using that more, and yeah, I'd love to see that.
And I know this is really specific, but something recent that came into the league is using that like last step as sort of a rudder to like move around. Like PG-13 does that a lot, where he sort of uses that last foot to drag himself in a different direction. And OG's doing that for the first time I've seen this year. How do you add a move like that? Is that something you guys talk about, like specific?
I mean, I think he's just working on it. I mean, again, you just got to continue to expand your game.
Bro, who is this guy?
Find ways to get to the rim, just be more controlled, and I think that helps with that.
You've faced off against Kyle a number of times now. Is it getting any more normal to kind of see him on the other sideline, or sort of what was it like?
Against who?
Kyle.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's weird. Still weird, but again, it's the NBA, right? You get used to it.
Do you have any specific conversations with him tonight?
Yeah, no, we talked a little bit. Obviously, always good to see him. Like, obviously, like, greatest Raptor of all time. So hey, always good to see him, and someone that for me was like a vet when I was a young kid. So like, it's super exciting to see him. And obviously him, the more like what they built here, like it's just. Like, you don't even have to talk about it, you know, it's in the books.
You're kind of in that role now as the vet on this team. Do you talk to him at all about that kind of stuff, and what do you take from Kyle that you now use as, you know, the vet on this team?
I mean, I think like people are different, you know, obviously like you try to, you know, learn from people and then like get certain stuff from players, and I think like, again, leadership is like just kind of unique to who you are as a person, and you know how you carry yourself, and again, like I think just like, you know, trying to bring guys together, like something that he always used to do, and like I said, he's like a floor general out there. I'm a different, you know, it's like we're different, but again, there's definitely stuff you can learn from him.
Pascal, yes, this year much more than last one. Before attacking the rim or running the pick and roll to attack the rim, you pass as a team. You pass the ball much more. Do you have do you establish a certain number of passes to make before attacking the rim, or?
No, I mean just trying to read the plays, see what's available, and you know, just again just having that gravity in terms of like just. People, you know, two people, three people when you're driving. So just trying to make the right play.
Darko, the holes you dug at the start of the game and the start of the third quarter, any explanation for happening so like twice in one game tonight?
Twice in one game. I wish I had the explanation there. Start of the game, I thought we did a good job at the rim, and they did not score. They made 5 threes, and some of those shots open, some of those heavily contested. They got hot. That happens. But what happened there in the third quarter is something that we're going to definitely watch on the film and address everything that happened there. We cannot be the team that plays defense only when we are scoring. We gotta be the team that if things are not working for us, I thought that in those stretches that we're getting pretty good looks. We missed layups, we missed threes, but that affected our defense, and our body language was not good enough on the defensive end. Focus, mental mistakes. In the first half, we had only 2 turnovers. We had 8 turnovers to start that third quarter, and they went on a 16-0 run.
Is it effort, or do you think it's concentration? Or
It's a lot of times it's a discipline. It's a discipline to do the right thing even when the things are not going your way. You gotta be able, like if you missed a shot, still to go back on defense, still to communicate, still to get a stop, still to rebound. We allowed them way too many cuts in the first half that they scored easily on. 64 points in the first half. That's not considered good defense. And it's going to be really good and healthy film for us to learn from and get better at.
I think it's 5 of the last 6 games now that the starters have been outscored in their minutes. Would you consider making a change to that group, or are you not quite at that point yet?
We gotta figure it out. Like being outscored, how much of that is a problem defensively, how much of that the problem is offensively. That's always the question there. We're constantly taking a look at everything, trying to figure it out. We're trying to go to different lineups out there. We went with Otto Porter as a 5-man there. Even he did not score points when he was on the court. He just gave us presence and calmness, and we were plus 14 when he was on the court. So we'll be continue looking at everything and evaluating everything.
And about Otto, in that second quarter, Precious had a really nice cut into open space with that Otto created for him. How much of a benefit does having shooters alongside Precious offer you when you can simplify the decisions he makes in space?
It helps. It helps with everybody. It helps with starters. It helps with Yak. It helps with Precious. Obviously, just the spacing is different when you know that somebody is a good shooter and that he demands the better closeouts and chase off the line and going over the screens. Definitely, it helps, and it helps with his decision making. But the whole team has ability to read the game easier.
And you mentioned Otto's minutes. I think this is the second game he's played in the last 6. Is it just rehab, or is there? What's the reason that he's not playing so much for you guys?
He was in rotation tonight. I think he did a good job tonight, and he's going to be in rotation for now going forward. If he's going to sit a game out here or there just for a load management, we'll see that. But he definitely did a hell of a job last week or so with his play groups and conditioning and just finding his way back in the rhythm of playing.
Markquis, down the stretch there, I think Robinson got free for that triple in the corner, and then a play or two later he slipped in. He slipped the screen and got the layup. But it's kind of like your primary guys who are kind of getting confused.
Okay. These questions have been a lot better. Okay. I'm really happy that what feels like, I think it's the first time this year that we've heard a question about changing the starting lineup, something that I've been talking about since game 1. I would like for him to actually honestly ask himself, does that 5-man unit make sense? Because basketball-wise, it does not make sense. It's never made sense. Not when it's going well, especially not when it's going as badly as it did tonight. Scotty plus 4 bench players also doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when 2 of those bench players are Precious plus Boucher. There are certain players you cannot play together on the floor or you will lose basketball games. Unfortunately for the Raptors, their starting lineup feels to me like it's necessitated out of what they perceive to be their 5 best players, but they're not their 5 best players, number one, because I would argue Otto is one of your 5 best players, first of all. And they're certainly not optimized in terms of synergy. I've talked about it a lot. Regardless of how you feel about Gary Trent Jr., and trust me, I'm not the biggest Gary fan, nor am I a big Gary detractor. I'm very even keel on Gary. He helps that starting lineup immensely. The concept that he lost his starting job without ever getting a look at it. In preseason, not one game did he get a chance to start. This has bothered me the whole way through. It needs to happen. At some point, it needs to happen. I hope they let it happen at some point.
And those coverages, and how frustrating is that to deal with? Like, it's not young guys, like this is Pascal, this is OG, this is Dennis. So, like, how does the message got to get through to them?
We got to do a better job. Like, first, you're right, absolutely right about that. But at the same time, Caleb Martin went off in the first half with the 23 points. So all of us, like all the players, they got to do much better job. We got to do a better job of. First of all, I got to do a better job of coaching, and maybe if there is any gray area for guys to clean that up. But everything starts on the ball. I thought a lot of times we got beat way too easily on the ball, and once you get in a scramble there, it's a completely different mode. We got to do a better job on the ball, guarding, staying in front of the ball, and trusting our shots. When the ball touches the paint way too easy, then it's a problem.
Does having this sort of effort after 2 days, not effort, I should say, performance, after 2 days off and then 2 days of practice, I mean, how, as a coach, how concerning, is it more concerning than it would be in the, 1 game on, 1 game off type?
I mean, Eric, I'm not really looking at it that way. Like, every game is important. Every game has a value. We're approaching every game, preparing the best we can to execute offensively and defensively. I thought that our discipline was not where it needs to be tonight. On offensive end as well, we went away in the second half of finding open man and finding early passes. Defensively as well, we just did not do what we're supposed to do there. So definitely it's concerning. Definitely something that we're going to look at the film and use the day tomorrow to watch the film, talk about it, practice, and try to get better through this.
Coach, Scotty scored 2 points in the first 3 quarters and then 10 in the fourth. Is there anything kind of being done to see how he's finding success in the fourth and trying to bring that earlier along in the game, especially, since your team sometimes, struggles with energy off the top?
Scotty for the game was correct, but 5 for 17. He took 17 shots. If he makes some of those, he's going to have more points throughout the whole game. It's decision making from the whole team, finding him when he's open. He knocked down he made threes there in the fourth quarter. He was missing before that. He missed a couple of easy layups there. I think this was not the best performance out of Scotty, but I think he's going to be much better going forward, and he's all constantly trying to find a way how he can turn it on in the first quarter, comparing just to the fourth quarter.
All right. My thoughts on this are that it's very easy to get, blindsided by our own agendas, right? So worth noting, Scotty did not have a good game tonight. I was pretty critical of the first half, and nothing in the fourth quarter is making up for how he played through the first 3 quarters. As I said earlier, there's only so much you can do when the offense around you is what it is, right? There's only so many spaces on the court. It's like asking somebody to go fast in gridlock traffic, right? Can you imagine being backed up behind 17 cars that are just standing still and you're like, go faster. And it's like, I can't. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. I can just jam into the car in front of me and create a car accident. And, yeah, his touch needs to be better, shot needs to be better, whatever. But I mean, like, it's just the offense, man. It's the process. Anyways, let's bring on Andre, Lane, and Jonathan. Y'all on? What's going on?
What's up? What's up? Yo.
How goes?
Bro,
Oh my God.
that was frustrating to watch, bro. That was really frustrating. Just a couple things I want to know. That third quarter, like you, everyone else is clearly seeing that Schroder is just struggling to run an offense and get Pascal the ball. They couldn't score. They he went on like a 14-0 run or even more.
16-0.
16-0 run. And I don't see him pull Schroder aside and say, hey, run the point. I don't understand. Second thing is there's a lineup that came about because by mistake. It was Pascal, Scotty, OG, Gary, and Otto. Someone posted this on Twitter, and that was the best lineup the Raptors had in the night. They went on like a huge run. Scotty was at a -25 at that time, and then bumped up to -19, and then he went away from that lineup. I'm trying to understand and really understand, like, what is it? Like, it seems like there's an agenda here. Not only from the coach, because the coach is speaking what he's speaking, but it feels like there's an agenda here to either showcase certain players. I don't get it. So, as a fan, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Pascal just scored 30 points, man. We should not leave him. We shouldn't let this guy go. But then you're going to give him a max contract, and he doesn't fit in for the next couple years. Okay, so let's let him go. But now we don't have a player that can handle the scoring load because Scotty's not there yet, right? Everyone is blaming Scotty on Twitter, and I'm like, bro, when Schroder, especially in the first two quarters, Schroder had the ball in his hands literally, I think, at least 70% of the time. And then most of the times when Scotty got the ball, it was like, okay, he has to play with the Scotty plus bench, right? And it's like, well, he's now supposed to create offense, grab rebounds, score, and you expect him, and you put him with Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Like, I don't understand these things, and I know Dark was working within his means and stuff like that, but at the same time, when you see a lineup like this, you see Otto Porter plus 14, and you don't finish with him. Like, what are we trying to lose? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's some logic to be said that Otto should. And I've always found it kind of weird how cagey and defensive Darko gets when asked about Otto's minutes, right? There's always some weird, like, deflection. So he's asked, like, why he hasn't played over the last 6 games, and then he says he's going to play going forward. So it's like,
yeah,
that's weird. That wasn't the question that was asked. The question that was asked is why he hasn't played the last 6 games. Why have you had him outside your rotation? What are you not telling us? Because, and this is where, unfairly you can get blinders on, right? Like, you can get blinders on about certain players, right? And it's good to shit test yourself. So, for instance, like today, certainly no one would accuse me of being a huge Pascal Siakam fan, right? Pascal Siakam played a much better game than Scotty Barnes today. Much better game.
We were screaming to get him the ball, and they just... And sorry,
Right.
Another thing, Rob. Why can't we break a zone?
Good question.
What aren't we? These are NBA players, right? What I'm like confused.
Supposedly.
You just put the guy at the center in the middle, break the zone. I don't get it. And you
Did you watch the Lakers versus Suns last night?
No, I didn't get to watch that.
It was an awesome game. Very controversial ending, but very awesome game. And it was so interesting to watch so many players be able to basically break their man off the dribble or catch and go quickly. And, you have guys like Austin Reeves going off, and you're just like, what is the talent gap between an Austin Reeves and a Gary Trent Jr.? Well, it's not necessarily like, it's not even an impact gap because they're comparable players, but the talent gap is there, which is that one guy can pass, dribble, shoot, and the other guy can dribble and shoot. You're very incomplete basketball players, right? Like across the board, you have incomplete basketball players. I think this comes down to Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, their scouting department, their development staff the last 3-4 years to consistently put guys into positions where not only are lineups not being optimized, right? Like how many players on this team can pass, dribble, and shoot? This is a serious question. Scotty can pass, dribble, and shoot. Pascal can pass, dribble, and shoot. OG can pass, dribble, and shoot. That's 3 players. I think your fourth guy is Otto. That's it. You have 4 guys on your team that can pass, dribble, and shoot. Dennis can't really shoot. And like you can say he can pass, dribble, and shoot. And maybe that's the theory behind why he's starting, because in theory he can, and maybe by the eye test he can, but the analytics tell me he's a poor paint finisher. He's over ball dominant. He has all sorts of issues. And then defensively, you give up so much with him. I think so much of my analysis early in this game, like let the Raptors off the hook for how poor their defense was tonight, and this disconnectedness for fans between offense and defense is primitive. It needs to end. These things are so connected, right? You're taking quick shots. You're missing those quick shots. You miss a layup where your point guard flies out of bounds and lands in the 3rd row. The other team is going the other direction. There are certain guys who are just constantly late recovering. And
on that play, Rob, I wanted to say, Scotty was screaming at Schroder to move the ball. He ran right into the thing, and he's like, Scotty, you saw him on the sideline. To OG.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you're like, and everyone in the chat, because we do the live chat thing on Twitter, and everyone's in the chat like, what the freak is Schroder doing? Sorry, I didn't mean to burst out again. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, look, like there was a an earlier comment from Recruiter Dude about why did Scotty get the quick hook in the 3rd quarter? He was late getting back in transition. He walked up the court on offense and then he walked back on defense. Frustrated, winded, I have no idea, but it's inexcusable, right? You've had 4 days off. You can't, and you're 22 years old. You can't be sorry on defense. The thing is that too often this team has required what I consider like uncharacteristically high effort, high motor performances from certain guys. Scotty, for instance, like the first 7-8 games, like insanity, right? Like he might have, like if he had an energy bar, it went to 50 on the season based on like what he did in those first 8 games. Go back and watch it. To anybody who thinks I'm kidding, like he was everywhere. Some possessions he was guarding like 3 guys on one play, and it's just like, this is not sustainable. He's a really big human being. He's going to burn out. He needs to hold himself back a little bit. He was leading the team in minutes as well, playing this insane way. And then how much of a toll it takes on him offensively. And you're going to have dead legs if you consistently play. So once again, defense and offense being connected. This isn't baseball. There aren't one-way players, it's everyone's two-way player. So ultimately turnovers are going to hurt your offense, but most importantly, they're going to kill your defense too. Long shots, long rebounds. So this is the thing. The consequence of being a bad 3-point shooting team is it kills your defense. A connection that a lot of people don't necessarily make is that with more and more NBA teams taking so many threes, the more you miss, the more sure your transition defense has to be. Now, the Raptors have sort of escaped this because they have a unique competitive advantage as a transition defense, which is that they don't have too many issues with cross matching, right? Last year, Fred VanVleet was commendable, if not admirable, in his ability the last few years to guard up positions. He wasn't killing you, right? Like he wouldn't kill you if he got cross matched on a power forward. He was still finding a way to strip the ball or do something, right? Front the post, do something that was effective. Kyle Lowry, same thing. A couple times tonight, Scotty Barnes found himself on Kyle Lowry and found himself it was impossible to move him because I guess Scotty hasn't figured out what most of the league has, which is Kyle Lowry in the post is not a mismatch for anybody, right? So you have to consider like there's a deficit of shooting on this team, but more importantly, there's a deficit of high IQ. So the cascading effect comes from low IQ, low discipline, what Darko alluded to. So lack of discipline to continue with your offensive principles, defensive principles when things are not going your way. So the quicksand element of building, cascading, the misses keep going is that it puts so much pressure on your defense. So consider low IQ decision leads to poor shot opportunity. Poor shot opportunity consistently leads to more missed shots. More missed shots consistently lead to more transition defense having to be played, which means that teams are getting leaky opportunities, killing your rhythm, but also forcing you to run and scramble and exert yourself so much to make up for your terrible shooting. Then you have to come back down and try to make shots, and you're just more tired than the other team because you're having to scramble so much more than them, right? So it is like it just catches up with you. Even early deficits, it's exhausting to have to come back from 15 down 2 times. It's exhausting. So by the end, you get to the fourth quarter, the other team, even though they are undermanned, I mean, they're talking about bench scoring. They're basically starting their bench right now. Like what do you mean bench scoring? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like they're missing 2 really key players that, if I'm being completely honest, Bam Adebayo is pretty much as good, if not better, than almost every single player on your team. And Tyler Herro would be a de facto go-to scorer for you at this point, you know? So, and this is not a great team. I think that's worth noting. This is not a team that is expected to come out of the East. This is not a team that is expected. I think preseason rankings had these guys at play-in. They're missing 2 of their 3 best players, and they whooped you. This is inexcusable. And you're at home. It's inexcusable. This loss is inexcusable.
Let's rest.
I think heads should roll, personally. Jonathan, go ahead, man.
Hey, I'm trying to maintain the positivity, but this, I want to say this game, like I was out for wings with my brother and we were watching the game on the big screen, and it just ruined the meal. It was bad.
It ruined wings. Shit.
Yeah, I really like wings, and
me too.
So is my brother, and he is not as much of a fan, so it didn't. I don't know. They just sat in my stomach like a rock. But it's nice to see Pascal still attempting to buy in.
Yeah, he played really well tonight. No complaints.
Dennis can suck my nuts. He trots like a fucking show horse, like coming up I hate watching him bring the ball up. It's so fucking aggravating. I apologize for the swearing. And the last point I just wanted to make is Doug Smith. That guy is so fucking basic. He should be wearing Uggs and drinking pumpkin spice lattes. Like I'm fucking done. Like I can't listen to that fucking like. It sounds like he permanently has like a lollipop or like marbles in his mouth on the regular. His questions just drive me fucking nuts. But other than that, D- for Scotty. He had something in the fourth, but I don't know if he's just like tired, worn out, sick of this.
I mean, wouldn't you be? I mean, I try to empathize on a human level. I try to empathize. Like, it's hard for me to imagine. Like, Otto has been rendered to 0 points several times this season, quite a few times actually. I think there was a game where he didn't even attempt a single shot.
Well, they're straight up cucking him, man. Like, it's ridiculous the usage he gets and what he can bring. Like, and I don't like the contradictory aspects of what Darko says. Like, you know, he's a stabilizing presence. He keeps, you know, he basically presents good ball to follow for everyone else. But then he gets those minutes. Like, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to find a ray of sunshine in this, but this game was fucking gross. I was so hurt by this. Like, and I know I shouldn't. It's just sports, but it was bad.
Yeah. Someone's saying Scotty was outplayed by Vasquez. You mean Huck? Okay.
Yeah.
You mean Jaime Jaquez?
That guy is good, man. That
He
guy
is really good.
Lay, man.
Yeah, but give me another 10 game sample size of him playing him, and I'll take Scotty on that. I'll put money.
Yeah,
Like, it's
like,
one game.
I mean, it's not even close between these two players, but you know, like it's interesting. Again, watching other teams play through this in-season tournament has been so interesting because you watch the New Orleans Pelicans play, the Pacers, the Kings, the Celtics, even. And again, when they're not playing your team, when they're not playing against the Raptors, it's interesting to just watch other teams play basketball. I watch a lot of other teams play basketball, both in Europe, college, etc. And again, I reiterate, I have never seen a team this year, not in the WNBA, not in college basketball, not in the NBA, not anywhere, that plays a sorrier brand of basketball than the Toronto Raptors. It looks good for about 10 minutes a game maximum, where it's like ping, ping, ping. Like when the Raptors got back into the game in the first quarter after Darko Rajakovic calls that second timeout, it was beautiful. It was just connected. It was quick. The reads were quick. The drives were quick. Everything was just done with force. There was some urgency.
Yeah, his timeouts, I will give Darko some serious credit. He has I wish the league could, give the Raptors twice the amount of timeouts that every other team gets, because off of the timeout they tend to the plays they execute, they have like a little bit of pickup. But
35 timeouts a game for the Raptors.
Yeah,
let's do it. This is
Oh
the
my God.
longest game of my life, and just watch a 4.5-hour game. Anyway, Lane, what'd you think, man?
I don't know. I've just kind of had the same opinion all year, that it's like, if you were just going to bring in the Walmart Nick Nurse and the Walmart Fred VanVleet, you might as well just kept Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet. You know what I mean? I see the same thing, except regression from the point guard spot and the head coach spot. And I understand he's a rookie head coach, but if you're going to play the favoritism game like Nick Nurse did, then I don't give you any grace, period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inexcusable. 18 shots. I mean, even Fred fucking knew when to stop last year. Sometimes.
No, he didn't. Not if my lowlight videos are evidence for anyone who ever forgets how fucking ball dominant and selfish Fred VanVleet got at his worst. Go watch those lowlight videos. It is very Dennis-esque. The only difference is Fred still was a better player. Like, I mean, Dennis on his best day, Fred on his worst day, to me, it's still like, it's close, but like, do you know what I mean? Like Fred played like dog shit for the first like 15 to 20 games of the season last year, right? He was terrible. He was struggling off the ball. He was trying to buy into this new role, but he had no intention of ever playing that way. I think it's a small league. It's 30 teams. There's 450, 470 players. Everyone's watching what everyone's doing, right? The way you treat one player, what you let one player get away with, everyone else notices, right? When Justin Champagnie came here, he chose to come here. Why? He had success with undrafted players, shown a commitment to undrafted players. Jeff Doughton came here. Why? Because this is a team that actually gives a chance to their two ways. They give priority to their 905. The reputation precedes you. So when you develop a reputation as a selfish organization that allowed their point guard to come in and hijack the fucking offense and get paid, and you let him win, he didn't lose. It didn't become a cautionary tale like Dennis Schroder, in LA, where he, rejects the contract and then has to sign a minimum or something. No, this became a historical win for Fred VanVleet. You allow yourself to basically get cucked effectively. You allow a guy to basically bet on himself, and you end up looking like idiots at the end of it. So any point guard in the league looks at this situation and they're like, oh, I see. So if I go there and they're going to give me maximum amount of usage and no one is going to hold me accountable and the media is going to basically suck my nuts every single night, as long as they give him access. Like the Fred VanVleet blueprint is not difficult to replicate if you are a somewhat talented player, because certainly the media didn't turn on him when he was shooting 29% from three. So why are they going to turn on Dennis? It's the same shit. You know, again, the analytics are not lying to you. Like Dennis Schroder his usage has been up.
Yeah.
We went from we went from a Scotty centric offense the first 7 games to a Pascal centric offense in the last 15 games or 14 games. 14 games. But one thing that has never changed is that Dennis has always been the second option, and that OG has never been the second option, which I have an issue with.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, from a simple efficiency standpoint, like he's not a more efficient player than OG. It may look flashier, but certainly, it's not. This is not pickup ball. This is not N1 mixtape. It doesn't matter that you're flashy and quick if you can't finish at the rim and you miss 100 layups and you don't generate advantages and teams don't respect you as a shooter. Putting the ball in your hands like this many times, especially with a team that like he's just living out his dream right now. Like he's always wanted this level of respect and leadership and whatever. And again, listening to Fred and his interview with Woj, if you've listened to it, I don't know if you have.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant and it was insightful because he talked about the expectation versus the reality, right? The expectation of what was built and what was promised versus the reality that set in for guys like him when they realized that this was not going to go that way, that it was not going to be Kyle and DeMar turns into Fred and Pascal, but rather there's this disruptive force here that's just more talented, and that's going to disrupt the entire thing, and that's going to be Scotty. And that expectation can certainly rule over your mind. And then certainly like Dennis Schroder coming in, there could be an expectation of, this is my shot. This is my opportunity to prove that I am truly among the elite point guards in the NBA. And I don't think people change, man. I think very few people change.
And it's interesting to see how situations change when players come and go. Like, for example, Fred VanVleet, his efficiency is pretty much the same at the start of the year with Houston as it was with us last year. He's a little bit better from three, but he's in a cold streak right now. However, look at how much better the Rockets are with him. You could say that's Udoka. You could say that it's another year of Alfred Sengun, but they're better because of him. And then you look at the LA Lakers. Guess what? They're better without Schroder too. And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Lakers, and I'm not saying bring back Fred was right at all. It was perfect for the organization, him to have a divorce, but to then go in and turn around and say, okay, well, now we have a little small point guard who's gone, so we have to go find another little small point guard to replace him. Like, why is it that we always need to have and I'm not anti-small guy at all. I am not anti-small guy. There is some 6'1", 6'2" guys who could very well come in this team and make a big difference right away. But
Sure.
I'm anti. I don't want to say like anti like non-necessity, but it's a non-necessity for this team. Like, we didn't need that, so why did we go out and get that? And then you just turn around and you see like Houston, how great they're doing, even with a struggling Fred, or LA, how great they're doing with pretty much taking Schroeder's role off the team and replacing it with nothing. And they just did addition by subtraction pretty much.
I'd wager that Braun had a really big push on why Dennis wasn't part of that. When you have a guy like him, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure he probably ripped into Dennis about 60, 70 times.
And it's
Yeah,
so
like
great.
LeBron does not tolerate low basketball IQ shit, right? And I think Scotty needs to take a page out of that book and just say, like, you know what, we've seen enough of this, screaming, for change. Like, I think at some point you just need to demand the change.
I feel like he's being suppressed. Like, I feel like he's just like someone that said he's deferring. It's like, well, why isn't Scotty speaking? Like, why isn't you see him on the court speaking up? but no one else is listening. So is it that he needs some sort of someone to back him up? Like I don't know. I just don't see why he like it feels like in the first quarter, right? He just like let Dennis do his thing. He'll sit in the corner like he always does, and then it's just like, what can he do? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what can Scotty do now in this situation that he's in to come out the better player or better person here? Because it's like we're losing and we keep losing, and plus he's still young. It's not like you can go. He has that kind of like experience of how to handle um, conflict, right? It seems like
Right.
conflict resolution needs to be kind of dealt with here. And I felt like the coach would have been that person, but from what I'm seeing, even in the questioning today, they asked him about the starting lineup, and he literally he didn't even
He shut
like,
it down.
he shut it
down.
down.
It's literally Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet, but
Yeah.
Walmart version. Like if you want the great value version, so instead of spending fucking $10.99 for it, you spend $3.99. You got it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it
Right.
is. And the issue is, are you going to? And I'm not calling for Darko to be fired, but like how telling would it be how dysfunctional the coach to front office relationship is, that if at the deadline you go ahead and you move Schroder, you move the head coach's guy. That would be
I think
crazy.
one thing that's maybe a little bit understated here is that despite Dennis's claims of, we are so like close with the coaching staff or whatever, is also a lot of faith in Dennis from this organization. Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, etc. I think they like him for whatever reason. It's Darko Rajakovic is not in any position right now to be demanding, who you sign as a rookie head coach. That's never ever going to be him, right? So it could be, okay, Dennis can come in, and there's also this additional benefit of he already knows the head coach. But I think because Dennis has done so much of the talking for the Raptors, for better or for worse, to borrow a term from Fred VanVleet. I've learned so much from Fred VanVleet about politispeak. I am one of the least political people in the world, but honestly, 1 year of watching that guy, I swear to God, I could run for Congress right now. So, so what I'll say is that, just look at this screen right here. Like, this is the comparison between, Schroder versus VanVleet, right?
It's not
So
even close.
the people who see the numbers, right? They're gonna say Schroder's better, right? Per 36 minutes, like 18 points, 8 assists versus 16 points, 8 assists. But you're not really looking at the right numbers, right?
Look
The
at
right
that BPM.
numbers.
Look at that BPM.
Exactly. 2.6 versus 0.2 is the difference. And you know what else is the difference? 21.6 versus 19.8. Like, so the vastly better player has the lower usage. And I guarantee you after tonight, that's going up a lot. Fred with us was around this level of usage. The difference is he was a positive defender. He was still a positive defender. And Maroon Prince, who is, no offense, probably one of the biggest Dennis supporters or defenders that I can think of in the chats consistently. You also saved 30 million, probably the biggest factor. You're a 41-41 team with Fred. We shouldn't be interested in that either. Sure,
but that's not
no one is arguing that you should be interested in one or the other. The problem is we've presented an argument that doesn't even need to be presented, which is, which one do you want? How about I'll take Dorsey. Neither. Right?
Neither at all.
Neither
I'd rather
were
him on the bench. That's he's like a sixth
Yeah,
man.
let him run with the
No, because he'll still
second
finish
unit.
games. He'll still finish games
He
if
can't
he's
be
on the bench. I
No.
guarantee you, if he's on the bench, he still finishes games over Gary or over Jakob. And it's
Okay.
the most disgusting thing, because we have literally swapped the premier brand, if you want to call it that, for the value brand. That's what we've done, and it's not going to change. And Masai Ujiri is a very smart dude, and he understands how media works, right? Like, and he doesn't. Ever since he's taken over in Toronto, I feel like the U.S. media, living in the United States, they still do give the Raptors some flack, but it's not as much as it was beforehand, because Masai Ujiri had just such a strong hold connection over it. But if he was to, I mean, everyone knows, it's not a secret that like Schroeder's Darko's guy. Like, Schroeder's there because of Darko. Darko doesn't come here, Schroeder doesn't sign here. Easy, right?
who was the
if
competing offer? Can you like okay? So let me pause the narrative to
it was
challenge the narrative.
Memphis. It was Memphis.
Do you think Memphis would have signed Dennis Schroder to a full mid level?
No, to a full mid level, maybe knowing that Ja was going to be out to start the year.
They have Marcus Smart.
That was
and they had
the
Tyrus
other.
Jones, right? And they got Tyrus.
They
And
had
they got
Tyus Jones. They got rid of Tyus Jones.
Yeah, they got rid of Tyrus Jones.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the other offer was Memphis.
Get rid of
even though-
Dylan. Get rid of Dylan Brooks and sign Dennis
Schroeder.
Schroeder. That sounds like a pretty significant downgrade. Okay,
It
makes
is,
sense
but
though.
they were thinking starter, and then
Yeah. Also, like, I mean, I just want to point out, like, for all the, Fred VanVleet has turned around the Houston Rockets, narrative, right? Which I'm
No.
sure, is for some people that's exactly what it is. I tell you, Ime Udoka was my number one candidate for a head coach. Okay, like the whole way through. Like I tell you how many. I think I started my Ime should be like our coach before anybody in the world said Ime. I started it. I think when Nick Nurse was still our coach.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So there is sometimes the right coach for the right team. Ime would, in my opinion, have been the right coach for this team.
Yeah. And,
For a multitude of reasons, specifically because of the article I read earlier about how he felt about Dennis Schroeder being one of those reasons, but also specifically because this team lacks toughness. They fold. They lack discipline and toughness in the worst way. They genuinely need someone to tell them the truth, not blow smoke up their ass, right? And they do need someone that they believe in, that cares about them, but also someone who they respect that holds them accountable.
Yep. And unfortunately, for better or for worse, right, the Raptors is a very PC organization. Like if you have any negative ties when it comes to like just I don't even want to name it, but you get what I'm talking about, right? And you're not gonna be a coach here. Like the other night, for example, when they were playing the Lakers, I don't know if you saw the clip, but Ime Udoka called LeBron a bitch, right?
Love it.
Yeah, so do I. But if that happens in Toronto, dude, we're suspending the coach for 3 to 4 games for derogatory language because that's a slur, right? They weren't going to hire him for what he did. According to a lot of people, it's a slur. Like on Twitter, like they got community.
Please.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy how soft shit has gotten. But yeah, the community noted it on Twitter.
Oh
but like,
God.
I mean, we got rid of Terrace Davis over a serious accusation, mind you, a serious accusation, but an accusation. A very young, promising player. I mean, Udoka was never going to be the guy. I wanted him to more than anybody.
I would love for us as a society to be able to draw a line between controversies. Okay, there is no comparison between things like Miles Bridges, what he did, and what Ime Udoka did.
Yes.
Now I know this PC ass city is going to have its thoughts about you can't cheat on your wife, but yo man, like 66% of marriages end in divorce. I think infidelity is a pretty big reason why. Ashley Madison exists for a reason. A lot of people cheat on their fucking wives and husbands. It's not something that I like. It's not something I would ever support. Certainly not something that I want to do ever in my life, but shit happens. I mean, they were consenting adults. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? So the idea that Ime knew coming in that this media space, like I don't want to believe is that Doug Smith and Michael Grange are the reason we can't get a coach. You know what I mean? Or a player. Like it's a little wild to me. But at the same time, I totally understand it, because when they sniff blood, right, and they feel like talking about your mistakes is going to give them clout, these vultures will. They have no discretion.
Yeah,
they have no code.
Didn't you know Scotty has no work ethic? Didn't you know
Exactly, right? And it's like, whoa. On the one hand, so socially progressive, so empathetic. The virtue signaling makes me blush, and yet no empathy for the 21-year-old struggling in his second year. Smear campaign galore, no problem, right? There's a locker room full of grown men competing for contracts. You got a 21-year-old stuck in the fucking crosshairs trying to play the right way, and he's the guy with no work ethic issues because I don't know, some coach who's never met him suggested that he might have not worked hard enough, and you took it and ran with it, because that's the thing, right? And I think, like, as much as last year was aggravating, exhausting, redundant, repetitive for a multitude of reasons, I think what it did was it showed me how people think, more so than perhaps I'd ever thought about before. I really got to understand like how tied people are to their own convictions about who people are, right? People have always suspected Scotty to be a bit of a role player, right? Since he came out of Florida State, there was a lot of talk about how he's going to score in the half court, looks like more Draymond, etc. So they had this sort of expectation that got temporarily shattered when he won Rookie of the Year, right? And people are like, whoa, 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 how good could this be? So there's already like a cautiously optimistic, but somewhat pessimistic, it's too good to be true kind of attitude towards it, because no one was talking about him. But if Cade had come out and posted the exact same season that Scotty had, people would be talking about him as a future MVP. Same game. I mean, Cade can come out in 3 years in a row, negative win shares 3 years in a row. People are still talking about him like a future all-star. But Scotty Barnes can put 6 boxes minus together for 20 games, and they're like, okay, well, small sample size. People just want to see what they want to see, you know? So Scotty having work ethic issues is like a defect. People want to see a defect.
I think it started with the draft day because everyone wanted Suggs.
Right.
Everyone wanted Suggs. And because Scotty was picked, now we're overreaching. He comes out, he shows that he's more than what people thought he was. So people are in their feelings. They don't want to be wrong about how they assessed him. So it feels like it's like a...
Well, it certainly doesn't help
defend.
that the media space, like the people in the media have continued to double down on this take as well. I mean, they have routinely asked for him to be moved for, I mean, maybe you can't get Cade. Even if you'd gotten Jalen Suggs and Jalen Suggs had come out and won Rookie of the Year, people will be talking about him as future franchise. But suddenly it's Scotty. He's got to wait his turn. There's always been an unfairness about it, and it's never really sat right with me. And the only thing I can think of is it's not the guy you originally wanted, and you're always looking for reasons why you were right to begin with, because that's the first piece of information you had. The first piece of information you had was, this is another Bruno Koloko. I swear to God, I shit you not, I talked to someone about this on draft night, and they were just like, Rob, please tell me we did not just draft another Bruno Koloko. That's how little people understood about the top 5 recruit, one of the best young players in his age group since he was 13, 14 years old. That's how little people understood about him. I do blame and this has really sparked my war with the media in general, because I feel like their misinformation has just snowballed. And them doubling down on it, suggesting that you should trade him for KD, trade him for Dame, he's never going to do this, never going to do that. It's also created a cascading effect where, that's sort of like tainting what fans expect. And so now when he has a game like tonight, certainly it's going to be scrutinized a hell of a lot more than when Pascal Siakam comes out and scores 11 or 12 points. But why? One of these players is 22 and still managed to put together a pretty, dominant fourth quarter run. And the other one is like 30. And so it just it just exacerbates an issue, which is the original misinformation just has a tendency to kind of snowball onward and onward.
I've said it.
Yeah, and it started, it started as media coverage here in the States because he did choose to go to Florida State instead of one of the big blue chip blue blood schools, which he had offers to. And especially being in the 6-man role, you don't really get a lot of attention as that. Like, for example, Dante DiVincenzo was a 6-man for Villanova, and nobody ever heard about him until that national championship game, right? And next thing you know, he's drafted 17th overall. So no one really talked about him. No one heard about him. It was kind of like he played.
Marvin Williams was a 6-man for North Carolina. He was drafted 2nd overall. People heard about him.
Yeah, for North Carolina, though.
Fair enough.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he played for Florida State and kind of
he didn't play in the Mountain West, man. He played in fucking Florida State plays a really, really solid.
They do. Don't trust me. There's a lot of people right now in the United States that are mad about Florida State not getting into a college football playoff because they play in a Power 5.
Can I also make a point? Over the last 5 years, Montverde Academy is probably they have produced more NBA players than any Division I school.
It's a top three program in amateur basketball in the United States.
It's
Easy.
the closest thing to Division I
Easy.
basketball in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And so to me, what they're doing with these kids up there is very much like what Kansas and Kentucky are doing at the next level. It's just 1 year earlier. It's prep school,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So
Unfortunately, that
to
doesn't get the
me,
attention though.
okay, sure. But when I look at what Jalen Green did in high school versus what Cade and
Mhm.
Scotty were, in high school, I can see that. Like,
Mhm.
especially with Scotty, I can definitely see that. And unfortunately, Precious Achua and Ben Simmons are also Montverde Academy alums, but nevertheless did not help them very much. But I will say that, like, there's so much attention when you play for that school,
Yeah, for sure.
especially in Florida, especially in that area of the world.
For sure.
Um,
For sure. There's
like
just a
everyone
negative.
watched them play. Everyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
There's just a
everyone
negative
who's into high
connotation.
school basketball watched that team
Yeah.
play.
So there was a viral video that came out the other day, and it was a bunch of like 2024 class of 2025 kids. They were getting asked like, what was better, 2020 Montverde or 2016 Chino Hills? And they were like, oh, was that with Cade in them? Was that with Cade in them? Was that with Cade in them? And it's like, dog, do you not realize that like Cade wasn't even the best player on that team? You know, and it's so crazy because you'll like be like, yeah, Scotty was on that team too. Oh no, wait, Scotty Barnes was on that team. See, like that's just where the media doesn't cover it enough, and it puts a negative connotation on it. So then when you do hear about Scotty Barnes, you do hear about how big, how physical he is, right?
Mhm.
But then you do hear also about the things he needs to work on. All of a sudden, it becomes, oh yeah, no, he can't do that. And that was the conversation coming into the draft, and like you said, they just kind of ran with it.
Well, I think Jason Timpf had a really great point about Austin Reeves yesterday. I think it applies to Scotty Barnes as well, right? So Austin Reeves struggled this season, right? A little bit compared to how he's playing last season. And last season, I think he was shooting like 70% true shooting or some crazy ridiculous splits. He's an incredibly efficient player. And a lot of people were buzzing about him. And then he gets a contract, which I thought was a lot lower than the contract he was inevitably going to get based on all the hype and everything. But after 20 games, people were like, oh my God, this guy's washed. He's terrible, et cetera, this year. And so Jason Timpf was like, listen, we had this many games last year. It was like 40, 50, 60, 70 games last year. And it was solid. That's a big sample size. So you have a 70 game or 60 game, I can't remember the number, sample size. I'm going to trust that over the 20 game sample size. Now, that's objective, right? There's no recency bias to that, right? It's not anchoring bias per se. It's not recency bias. It's keeping it flat. It's keeping it in perspective, right? This is a 24, 25-year-old player. There's not any there's nothing necessitated in terms of a regression. It's not like we're not talking about a 30-year-old where it's like it's possible he's falling off, losing a step. And so I think the same thing could be true for Scotty, right? He's non-shooter at Montverde. Okay. Bit of a non-shooter at Florida State. Struggle from the line. Then he got better and better and better, right? So even with last year's disrupted betterness, even though I think he was much better last year from different places on the court, this is a player who's consistently gotten better over the last 5 years, more so than perhaps any player in America. I think his journey from 2019 to 2024, effectively in a couple of weeks, will be about as far as any player has gone over that 5-year stretch. I trust that. It's the same reason I trust a guy like Javon Freeman-Liberty. When I see Javon Freeman-Liberty play, go skip conferences, go to DePaul, become better, go to the Windy City Bulls, go play in Summer League. Every time I've watched Javon Freeman-Liberty play, he's better. I trust this. I understand it's not endless, but I trust it. It's the same thing with Herb Jones. Like there's so many players out there where I'm like, I'm going to trust the track record. But if you have like this bias of like only what happened last week matters or only what happened 7 years ago matters, you lose the picture. And the picture is it's a very, very broad spectrum of data points. And the goal of any scout or any general manager is to project what the rest of the chart is going to look like, right? And so with Scotty, there's a lot of imagining that you have to do when you're talking about a guy going from a non-shooter to a shooter, from a power forward to a point guard, et cetera, whatever your projection is. It's the same thing you do with Precious. It's all these calculations have to matter. But in order to calculate correctly, you have to have A, the correct data, and B, the correct mindset towards evaluating the data. You can't just look at who the guy was for 1 year in high school, And I fear that people still go back to who Cade and Scotty were when they first saw them at Montverde. And they cannot reconcile how in the world that player that was so good is worse than that player who was airballing 3-pointers. They just can't imagine it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't compute in their head. It threatens like a perspective on reality. It's not supposed to happen, right? This would be like if I told you, I don't know, next year, Precious Achua is better than freaking Anthony Edwards. You'd be like, what? No. Now, the gap was not nearly that big, but you get my point, right? It's just, it's not supposed to happen. It threatens, like it disrupts reality.
Yeah, and another point to that, especially in, I don't want to say Toronto's not a small market, but a small market for the United States in the way of like, I have to freaking illegally stream all my Raptors games. You know what I mean? Like I can't turn on the TV and the Raptors are on TV.
That could be said for so many teams. That could be said for Indiana. That could be said for Milwaukee. That could be said for a lot of teams.
Right, exactly. That's why people are now so surprised about Tyrese Halliburton all of a sudden. Like they're seeing him on national TV.
He just played his second national. He just played his second national television game.
Exactly. And do you not see how social media is blowing up about him? Whereas
I've been blowing about him. I've been blowing up about him for years.
Same.
I love
here.
him.
Same here. I love
cards.
What'd you say?
You know what?
I have so many of his rookie cards because I loved him when he came in the draft.
You know what's funny? You should take photocopies of those rookie cards and send them to every Kings fan you know.
Dude, it's great. I love.
It makes me so mad how smug they are about how they broke out even Steven on that trade. And I like the Kings more than the Pacers. Historically, I've been more of a Kings fan throughout my life because of Vlade Divac and Petra Stojakovic than a Pacers fan. And I have a friend who's a Kings fan, Leo, and we have debated till we're blue in the face. And he keeps saying that Tyrese is this empty calories guy. Like he's not saying he's empty calories guy, but he's always like pointing out criticisms about Tyrese, and he's always like quick to say they both won the trade. And there's like 3 sticking points with Leo that I constantly have. Number 1 is Davion Mitchell. I cannot believe they drafted him. I stand by it. I stood by it on draft night. I'm like, this is a big mistake. Number 2, I don't think Keegan is that good. And I don't think he's going to be that good. I think he's a good player. I think he's a role player, though. I don't think he's a star or a superstar. He's taken a step defensively. I don't think it's a big step. But all I'm hearing is Keegan's taken the biggest step defensively. It's crazy to me. The third thing is that this trade was even. It was not even. You traded the younger player who's the better player. It's crazy to me. Plus, you traded Buddy Hield. Like, are you kidding me? Like, did we watch the in-season? So I made a poll on Twitter, which is, by the way, a landslide win for the Pacers, where I said, would you rather have Tyrese Halliburton or would you rather have Domantas Sabonis plus 2 first-round picks? Over almost 90% of people said Tyrese Halliburton alone. So that, to me, is like de facto ending the discussion. Like, I wish I had a larger Twitter following so that millions of people could have voted on that, because I think the results wouldn't have been different.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not even at all. It's really not even at all. And the discussion is, well, what do you want us to do? Trade Fox? No, trade neither.
Right. They can play together. They can play really well together. I mean, 2 guard lineups work. I mean, I would worry about the defense, but it's not like you traded Tyrese Halliburton for some great defender.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't make the Herder. You just don't make the Herder trade and you go out and get defensive help instead. Like, it's not that hard. I don't know. It's not like, I don't know. I feel like people think when you say like don't do something else instead, that means that you're on the same timeline that you would have been on. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's worth asking if you, let's say you wake up tomorrow and you're Monty McNair and you run the Kings, and somehow the NBA has undone the trade that you made, and you are now faced with this very interesting proposition where you have franchise point guard De'Aaron Fox and franchise point guard Tyrese Halliburton on the same team. And you have to trade one.
De'Aaron Fox.
That's what I thought.
I wouldn't move De'Aaron Fox in the first place, because as much as he's doing that well, I would have got more on the trade market for him than Halliburton. I think I don't understand.
At
That's what I
that
didn't
time, I
understand.
don't know if you necessarily would have. De'Aaron Fox already had a max extension at that point, I believe.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, he wasn't playing the way he's playing now. So he's playing a lot better. They're both playing a lot better. I do think you had to make a choice between one or the other. I kind of get why they made the choice they made, but it's one thing to make a choice and say, our hands were forced or we made a decision and, whatever, we'll live with it. It's another thing, for me at least, to try to rewrite it's like the Trae Young, Luka Doncic thing. No matter how many times you say it, it's never going to be true. Stop saying it was an even trade or it was close to even. You're talking like at this point, I would rather have one Luka over two Traes.
Yeah.
It's so lopsided. The gap is between these two players is so insanely lopsided that you can't even begin to comprehend it. You know what I mean? Like,
You know what the funny thing is?
What?
2 trays might be worse than 1 tray. Just because of the defense.
Facts. That's so funny. That might be my favorite
It's
quote of the
funny.
night.
Sam Mitchell actually is against that and says if you look at the numbers comparatively, their numbers are extremely similar.
Sam Mitchell said that?
Sam Mitchell said that. Yeah. The numbers are similar.
Trash
and
ass motherfucker.
yeah.
I'm so
And he's been-
glad Kobe hung 81 on your dumbass. I'm so happy, yo.
Well, and both of them have went to a conference finals, right? So he's just like he's saying, well, look what he's done.
Trae
And
Young's
he-
conference final was Mickey Mouse. That was
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse as hell.
Hey, I'm just telling you what Sam said.
I know. I'm just saying though.
Rob, can I propose a trade?
Yes.
Okay. I think we do need to trade Pascal. And I
Okay.
know people's not. I like even today's game. I really
Okay, I have an idea.
heard from him.
You're the Raptors. You're
Yeah.
Bobby Webster, Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
Okay. Andre. Okay, so Lane, myself, and Jonathan can be 3 teams. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us which 3 teams we are, and
Okay.
let's see what you get from
Okay.
us.
Rob,
this.
Rob, you'll be Golden State.
Oh, man.
Jonathan, you'll be OKC. And sorry, what was your name again, sir?
Lane.
Lane, you can be Atlanta.
Okay.
It's great.
This is
Okay.
beautiful.
Atlanta. Okay,
Okay.
so from Golden State, and this is like I'm starting as we're talking about this. I would like Chris Paul, Moody, and Jackson Triggs for Pascal.
Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Moses Moody.
Yeah. Jackson Triggs. So my thought process here is that Jackson Triggs can help while we're waiting for Koloko. I think he's so good with his hands underneath the basket. He's actually a really good player. Plus, we need talent So that's why I said him, Moody, because he can shoot and he can defend 3 and D. I don't mind that type of player there. And
Yeah.
Paul would be the guy that mentors Scotty. And the reason why I talk about this is that there was an article with Shea talking about his relationship with Chris Paul and how Chris Paul changed the way he looked at the game for Shea Gilgeous. And then they made
He's
the
done that
playoff.
everywhere he's gone. He did that for Devin Booker as
And
well.
I'm
He's
like,
done that. Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about the player personnel thoughts prices.
I also think he's done that for Blake Griffin. I also think
Yep.
he did that. I also think he did that for James Harden, to be honest. There's no
Yep.
player who's ever played with Chris Paul who didn't become a better, smarter player. I
agree
hear
with
what you're saying. So as the Golden State Warriors, I very much accept your offer and thank you very much for it. Number one. And now I take off my Golden State hat and I become Larry Tannenbaum and I fire you immediately for making this trade.
Yeah.
Because you somehow managed to make this trade without getting Brandon Przemski back. And that to me would be non-negotiable if I was the Raptors. But anyways,
I'm not as high
let me
on
off.
Brandon as others, but although he's really good, I not.
But you're
saying-
high on Moses Moody?
I
Why?
think it's the contract numbers. It's the numbers. When I figured it out, I think he makes $6 million. And it
Moses?
worked. Yeah, $6 million, I believe. and it works with the contract. That's why.
Are you
And I
also
don't think
are you also considering that Moses Moody is up for an extension next year?
that's fine.
His
Yeah.
rookie contract will be up, and you will, if he pops, like, these are what I consider very, let's call it, low value propositions, right? Podziemski, no matter how you feel, regardless of how you feel about him, is, in my opinion, a high value proposition, because if he pops for you, and he's already NBA ready, right? Like, he's a little bit older.
Yeah.
You have him for 4 years on a rookie contract. This allows massive, in my opinion, team building opportunities. When you have players this young who are actually already good at basketball, it helps a lot, right? With Moody, if it doesn't work for you, you're fucked, because that was really like the best asset long term coming back, unless you're really, really high on Trace Jackson, right?
Which I am.
Which you are. Okay.
Yeah.
He's good, but he's also another 4-year player, right? He's also a 4-year senior. He's also on a second round contract. Worth noting that, once again, you have limited team control and then limited team control after that because of his contract structure.
Yeah.
So the first round contract, in this sense, from a team building perspective, is worth a lot because of team control going forward. If Brandon Podziemski works out for you, and Santa Clara guards recently, in my opinion, just have like a good track record of this. I'm curious to hear what anyone else has to say about this. But anyways, I would absolutely push for Podziemski in this trade. If you're not asking for Podziemski, then I win this trade 10 times out of 10, and I take it. Yep, I would take it. Yep. Okay. Move on.
So
You're gonna go to OKC next?
Yeah, I'm gonna go OKC. This is the one I've been always thinking about. Pascal for Podolski, Jalen Williams, and a first rounder. A good Jalen Williams. And the reason why I feel OKC could do this is because they want to go one step further. And I think Jalen Williams would be perfect beside Scotty Barnes. I also think Podolski, he's good. He can shoot the three, a little bit more meat on his body. Yes, you need that, but I like him as a player, and he would be a fan favorite immediately. And then the first rounder, of course, because OKC has a plethora of those.
How is this working contractually?
Oh yeah, that was the thought process. I didn't work that one out yet. I think they have to add another player to that. And what was the player?
I mean, Jalen Williams is a late lottery pick, right?
No,
I'm assuming it doesn't work. It cannot work.
There was a
in
player
terms of,
that I looked at it again.
and are you saying Pokuševski?
Pokuševski, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Alexei Pokuševski, yeah.
Yeah, he's also on a very, very minimal contract. So you're talking about like maximum $13 million going out for them, and they're taking back 37. It's not going to work. They have Davis
What was the
Bertans.
player that I forgot?
They have Davis Bertans, who makes
Yes, I think that was the one player that I was thinking. Because it was a high contract, right? Because you have to match the 32 million that Pascal's making. So those three. And it doesn't hurt OKC because they have Isaiah Williams. They have what's that kid? Sorry, Isaiah Joe. And there's another kid that they have that's like
Cason Wallace.
Cason Wallace.
They have Cason Wallace. They have Isaiah Joe, and they have Josh.
Giddey.
In light of everything that's happening with Josh Giddey, do you think they would be willing to move off of Jalen Williams in this case?
No.
That's my question.
Yes, because I don't think there's any. I don't think they see anything wrong with what, like Josh Giddey is okay, in their thing, because they've actually researched. It was about a year old thing, and they must have vetted it, so they know. So that's why Josh is still playing. I was actually going to add Josh to this deal, but the problem is
You're gonna add him to this deal.
Yeah, but I don't think Toronto would want that, and I don't think OKC would want to work on Josh right now. Yeah.
If I'm OKC, I'm not like I understand where you're coming from Josh Giddey standpoint and that outside of basketball thing.
Yeah.
Hard no, like because his on court, if you can make the off court disappear, is way too high.
But I'm not adding Josh.
Sorry, which Jalen?
Jalen
Jal
Williams. Jalen the
or Jay?
I think it's
he's talking about Jalen
Power-
Williams. No, not the power forward, the small forward.
Oh, okay.
The guard, Jalen Williams. So let me just pull this up. I'll pull it up on the screen. Hang on. Stop screen
Thank you.
share.
And please remember, I'm just an amateur. Don't kill me too hard, but I feel like OKC is a good trading partner because I think
we
OKC
will
wants to
kill.
win.
We will kill you very hard. Hang on.
Thank you. Awesome. I love
Okay.
it.
So here's the player that you asked from me, and here's the player you're asking for from him in terms of like actual production. These numbers are a little bit deceptive, but you can certainly see there's a gap between these two players, right? Now, in terms of just numbers that are, let's say, a little bit more fair, because obviously Jalen Williams plays a lot more minutes. What? Okay. For 100 possessions, I think might be the best way to do this, and then the advanced stats. So, in terms of like the advanced stats, this is not even close.
No.
Not even close.
This
he's a
player is
higher
better-
usage player. He's got a higher assist percentage, higher PER, even a higher true shooting percentage for a non-shooter. That's not bad. In terms of like per 100 possessions, he's a more prolific scorer. He's a higher volume scorer. He's just a better creator. He's even a better defender. He's a considerably better defender, actually.
Way better.
So, I mean, you're talking about like two players who, granted, one was taken 12th in the draft, one was taken 14th in the draft. The difference is the guy who was taken 12th would probably today be taken like 4th or 5th in a redraft. And the guy who was taken 14th would probably be taken like 20th in a redraft. These are not comparable players. So in terms of like, I mean, I'm not Jonathan here, and he's already rejected you, but I would laugh you out. I would hang up on you so fast if you tried to project this. There's a lot of reasons for that. Number two,
hold on 1 second, Rob. Just to rebuttal that, right? So does Jalen Williams, could he win a series for you compared to Pascal?
Irrelevant. Completely irrelevant.
Why is it
First of all,
irrelevant? Because
Pascal Siakam has not won a series for you ever. So that's never happened.
Okay, but
he's your 2-3 option in a
hold on 1
championship.
second. Because if you're thinking like OKC's thinking, right? They've sniffed the playoffs a little bit last year. Now you're getting a proven player.
Tell me why they do this. They have 30 draft picks, dude. Or like 20 draft picks. They have so much pick equity coming up. They're not in any position right now to have to make this move. In fact, they won't be in a position to have to make this move for at least another year, at which point they could potentially even extract more value. I understand from your perspective, like why they would make a trade for a Victor Wembanyama, right? They would try to, or someone like that, like someone who's on their timeline. But why make a trade for Pascal Siakam right now when you could easily? I mean, like what couldn't they get right now? Like think about a young player that you really like, and ask yourself, could OKC get it with that package and add a few picks? Name me a young player that you really like.
If you're Shea, right? And you're seeing the timeline that they have, and we've already talked about this about the draft. It's hit or miss, right? And you're gonna tell me that having a surefire player that can defend, like Pascal can defend, he's been to a finals. You're telling me you wouldn't want to give up someone like Jalen Williams or Podolski when you have 30 picks in there. Pokusevski, sorry. When you have 30 picks where you can probably find those two players again in the future. Like I don't understand what that seems like a
they like players who can pass, dribble, shoot. They like their entire offense that they're running relies on players who set screens, who are fast, who run in transition, who play well. Like the issue is
to me.
It doesn't, because he can't shoot. He can't shoot. They play 5 out.
I was just gonna say, if I'm OKC, I I really struggle with seeing where Pascal fits in. Like, because I mean, I'm gonna
Chet
address
has
the
taken
elephant, and
that
Chet is
role.
Yeah, but
is
so now Chet's playing on the like he roams the 3-point line, right? And it's an inside out game with Pascal, and then you still have. Sorry, would bargain you out of all the. Oh damn! All right, it looks like I'm losing this one. But yeah, I just feel like that would fit because I feel like that 4 position with Shea running the point with Chet inside out game with Pascal would be a lot. It would be a lot better, and I feel like getting that even secondary scoring from Pascal. Pascal's been a very good secondary player.
Have you how much OKC have you watched this year?
Not a
Just
lot.
curious.
Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
So
I would have.
They're a very interesting team. Not always the greatest, but certainly they are very interesting in terms of the things they're trying to do offensively. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I really appreciate about them is how much space they create, largely because Chet is so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And so far, he's just been, he's 50, 40, 90 club. And that ability to play guys like Chet, Pokuševski, Jalen Williams, like the bigger Jalen Williams who could shoot, right? Having guards who could set screens like Shea, having bigs who can pop out, it can disrupt everything the other team is even comfortable trying to do because you're just putting everyone in a completely opposite position on the court. You're inverting your entire offense. It's very interesting what they're doing. Pascal Siakam slows that down for me. If they needed to go for a win now type player, I'd just as soon probably, if I were them, go for Zach LaVine. Just fits so much better with what they have to do. Again, defensively, I can see what you mean. They're probably better in the interim. They'll be better for sure. Long term, they're fucked because one, they're a small market team. They don't have a ton of money, right? They've shown it over and over that their ownership is kind of like cheap when it comes to dipping into luxury. You're taking on a guy who's eligible for nearly $50 million next year. You already have Shea, and then you have Chet, Josh, all these guys coming up. It's going to be tough. I mean, they're in a very unique position where they could easily, in my opinion, parlay Josh plus Jalen plus like 4 draft picks and get like any young player in the league not named Victor Wembanyama. If they really, really wanted that player, they could get him. If they had the assets to make a trade for anyone. Like, I mean, like, apart from, like list off 7 players that are untouchable, maybe 10 players that are untouchable, but like apart from that group, there's no team that they could not like make the lion's share, the King's ransom offer and get what they wanted. I just don't understand if they wanted to do that, why they would go for Pascal. But anyways, continue on and make your third offer to Lane, please.
Yeah. Okay. Last
I have a
offer.
question first. I have a question.
Oh,
first.
sure. Go ahead.
Is this assuming it's after when Jakob and McDaniels can be traded?
Yes.
Ooh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You mean
Appreciate
Jakob, McDaniels, and Schroder?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Last trade would be DeJounte Murray and AJ Griffin for Pascal.
No.
Can you see my face right now? I'm just like,
That's not happening. Let me tell you what is going to happen.
What?
Why not? Like, I want DeJounte Murray for
You know how
Pascal.
much we gave up?
You
for
know what,
DeJounte?
Andre? You are actually doing exactly what Masai Ujiri probably does in these calls, which is pissing the shit out of the other team, being like, okay, we're going to give you Pascal Siakam, this great player, and in exchange, we want all your young assets and all your draft picks for the next 50 years. Do we have
what
a deal?
about DeJounte Murray straight up for Pascal?
No.
I wouldn't do it either.
So let me tell you what is going to happen, though.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, okay. Lane, come
Love
on.
it.
Come for me, man.
You're going to give us Pascal for
Yeah.
DeAndre Hunter, Kobe Buffkin, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, and one 2028 lottery protected first round pick.
Oh, you got to be fucking kidding. There's no way in
I
hell
would
the
take
Atlanta
that
Hawks do
immediately,
that.
though. I would take that.
Have you watched
No,
Jalen Johnson this year, dude?
I have. And you know what's so difficult about this trade is it does not work unless both Jalen and AJ are involved. Like these two teams are like I've been sitting here on the
You didn't just give up Jalen and AJ. You gave up Jalen, AJ plus Kobe Buffkin.
Yeah, it's so hard to
Dude,
make this trade.
What?
I'll do
so
it
hard
because
to
I'm a
make this
Kobe
trade
Buffkin fan. So I'll do it. Hey.
Oh my God. If I'm the Atlanta Hawks, I fire you so fast. Bro, I wouldn't fire you. I would literally I think there would be police brutality involved. I would have your ass fired and kicked out of the building,
the Hawks are in
electrocuted. I would have you tasered. I
What
might
are-
have you
what's
shot
that
for this.
saying?
What are you
The-
talking
telling us
about?
right now?
the Hawks are
Jalen
in
Johnson plus Kobe Buffkin plus AJ. What the fuck?
All right. So
Who's better?
what's
Who's
really
better?
gonna make sense here?
Route,
What's really gonna make
Dejounte or
What's
Lane?
really gonna happen is going to be Clint Capella plus maybe one of those guys. I mean, this is a rental, dude. It's a rental. He's already made it clear he's not resigning. He's going to test free agency, right? So you're going to give up 3 young assets. By the way, AJ Griffin, fucking fantastic player in my opinion, not playing super well this year. Jalen Johnson is 3rd or 4th runner up for most improved player. I think there could be a legitimate case made that Jalen Johnson has outplayed Pascal Siakam this year, dude.
That's the Raptors' pipe dream. Here's the
Yo,
realistic:
Rob,
DeAndre Hunter, Bojanovic for Pascal Siakam.
Yo, the chat.
I mean, that's probably more realistic.
That's what I'm saying. That's the realistic Hawks offer. I gave what I would want as a Raptors fan, but this is.
So you were negotiating as a Raptor fan.
No.
That's not right.
I thought we were on the same page. But it's probably Hunter, Bojanovic, and maybe 2 first if you could squeeze it out. But
I think you get Bogdanovich, Hunter, and maybe a first. I don't think you're getting 2 firsts. I think you get maybe a first, and I think you thank God for that offer and you move on with your lives.
I'm gonna join with Lane on this, but why wouldn't you give up Jalen Johnson if you're gonna get Siakam? If they're not going to play, are you going to let Jalen Johnson just kind of chill on the bench while Siakam takes all that minutes and usage?
That's he's going to take Hunter's and Bojanovic's usage. He's not going to take Jalen Johnson's.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. Yeah, but Lane, the chat hates us right now. They're killing us right now. Oh,
bro, I was trying to give us some hope. as Raptors fans because this is such
I like
you know what? I think this channel speaks very much to this. The truth will set you free. The only thing that's hopeful is the truth. Okay, so we need to speak truth. Okay, I enjoy this conversation very much. Andre, is there any other team that you would like to trade Pascal Siakam to? I will happily play on that team because honestly, I'm an NBA fan. I have no problem putting on my Pacers hat, my Pelicans hat, whatever. I can definitely negotiate without bias from that perspective. So is there another team that you want to try out?
Pelicans, please, man. Please.
It can't be the Pelicans. I was thinking the Pelicans, but they have too many players like Pascal.
Dude, if we can get Trey Murphy back in that trade, I don't care what else there is. Just give me Trey Murphy.
Pascal fit in with Brandon Ingram and Zion?
Yes, he would. 100%. 100%. I feel like he'd be the bridge.
Tell me if we can get Trey Murphy and I don't know, man.
The Celtics.
Scroopy Hoopers, which is Vince, did we do Golden State yet? Yes, we did, and we had a successful deal apparently. Yeah. Well, but unfortunately, my man Andre got fired right after it immediately because he traded Moses Moody. I mean, your boy Moses Moody. Plus Trace Jackson, plus Chris Paul for Pascal Siakam. The more I think about that deal, it's not even that bad. It's probably pretty realistic. I don't know why I fired you. My bad. I mean, had I known what you were going to propose next, I would have waited to fire you and then fired you later. But you know what I mean?
The other team, I don't.
It was the best trade you proposed. I fired you for the best trade you proposed.
That's why I'm a designer. I suck at this.
So Maroon Prince by our okay. He said be the Bulls management. Okay, cool.
Ooh.
All right.
No one from the Bulls, bro.
That's a hard one. I can try this one
from the Bulls. Yeah, go ahead, Lane. Yeah, you do your thing.
Okay, I'll be the Raptors. You be the Bulls. All right.
I'm the Bulls. Okay. God, this feels like such a treadmilling move for both teams. This feels disgusting.
Are you priming me? You're priming me for you're kind of waterboarding me, trying to get me to soften up a little bit. Like, oh my God, I'm losing money on this sale, bro. I wrote the book on sales tactics. Come on.
What would the Raptors even want in return? Like, obviously Patrick Williams, but like, what else do you
Why is
want?
it obviously
Why?
Patrick Williams?
I
Why do
don't
you
like
think?
Because that's the
that
only
guy.
young asset they have. Unless you want
Mm,
Alex Caruso, but like they're not giving up Alex Caruso for Pascal Siakam. If they cash him in, it's for picks. I mean, Colby White kind of feels like quote unquote future to them, I guess. I don't know. Like that's
I
what I'm
don't
saying.
think
It's
he's
such a
that good.
disgusting trade. Like, are you gonna trade Pascal Siakam for DeMar DeRozan? That's the ultimate treadmilling move right there. I feel like I'm just trading apples for oranges.
okay.
Why don't we do
I'll-
Utah?
No, stick on Chicago for a second.
Yeah, because this is actually really interesting.
Would you do Thaddeus Young and Pascal Siakam for Alex Caruso and Zach LaVine?
Gosh, oh gosh.
I wouldn't.
No, I
If
wouldn't.
you're the Bulls, you would do that.
If I'm the Bulls, I do it in a heartbeat. If I'm the
Really?
Raptors, don't. Yeah, I do because
yeah.
LaVine is such a like LaVine's out for another month. Like as of like 20 minutes ago, he's out for a month.
He's off
So,
for
like,
4 weeks.
Yeah, the injury concerns there are just too much. His
And you get
contract
out of
is too
$43 million
inflated.
a year for
Like
5 years. Oh yeah,
he's not proven. He's a high calorie kind of player. Like I don't know. He doesn't do much well other than score and space the floor. I mean, like at least with Pascal, I know I'm gonna get.
I would try to jettison him to another team, and I would use Alex Caruso to build up probably the best defense in NBA history. Can you imagine Alex Caruso, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby in the same team? Like
That's
no one
crazy.
would
Who's
ever
shoot-
score
who's shooting,
again
though?
ever.
Who's shooting?
He's a pretty decent offensive player. He's just pretty low usage.
Someone
would
said,
you-
"What
oh.
about the Cleveland Cavaliers?"
That's
the
not going to
hell?
happen. They're going to go into a mini rebuild after Mitchell leaves. It's not going to happen.
So why not trade Mitchell now?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to New
rental
York.
for rental.
Yeah. The really interesting one to me is the Utah Jazz.
Okay, what's interesting about it?
That's really interesting to me. So they want direction. I have a friend who's a Jazz fan, actually lives in Utah, so like really, really like involved with the media space there.
Mhm.
They want direction. They think Lauri Markkanen's a guy that's here to stay.
You
So
mean
if
there
you
to
could,
stay? Okay.
yeah, they're to stay. So I think something which he said, this is him, so flame him. John Collins, Kelly Olynyk, Chris Dunn, and Bryce Sensabaugh for Pascal Siakam and random filler player. Plus 2 first-round picks from the Utah Jazz, 1 top 6 protected, 1 lottery protected.
Oh, another lane conversation about Bryce Sensabaugh. Why am I not surprised?
I had to add him in because he said Josh Christopher, and I said no, Bryce Sensabaugh.
So Lane, let me just say this. So
this
you're
is-
gonna
this
have
is
Kelly
your
Olynyk
trade.
and
No,
John
no. He
Collins.
said Josh Christopher. I just modified it with Sensabaugh. I mean, they're both in the
Right.
G League right now, so
Yeah, I was gonna say I would want Jordan Clarkson with it, but you're gonna put Olynyk another 4, and then John Collins, and then we have what? Who do we have in at 4? The 4.
So this is
We have
assuming that
Dunn.
we go like mass fucking nuclear mode. Like you're getting rid of Boucher's contract, you're getting rid of McDaniels, you're getting rid of Thad Young, obviously. Like you're getting rid of everything, and you're just saying Scotty, OG, Gary. Hopefully I say that.
This really should be like a show that I do called Make Me a Trade, and we have the Fanspo website open
Do it
and
up.
we just make trades. This would be a really cool show. Because I don't want to do this show, let's just do the show now. So, okay, cool. So in terms of, and I think like this will be an
Yeah, let's
educational
do this.
sort of segment into this, where after every single loss, we can cathartically trade away half the team. Okay, I'm surprised no one has mentioned trading Gary yet, because it is quite, something worth looking into.
I don't see a market for him.
Okay, let's make a trade to make us feel better about where the Raptors are going. Who am I making this trade with? Wizards? Nope. Timberwolves? Nope.
If you want to feel a better team, it's probably Indiana.
I feel like Indiana's got a really good thing going
Yeah, I
right
think
now.
they've
I don't
got
think they're gonna
some-
fuck with it. Like they
You don't
haven't.
think Benedict, they would give up Benedict? I'm not saying that's the best you can get for Siakam, or it would be a good player to get back in return, but I feel like a lot of
That is
I feel
definitely
a lot
the
of
best you can get for Pascal Siakam rental, bro.
You think so?
Benedict Mathurin is a top 6 pick who is, I mean, like I don't like him personally. Not a fan. So,
Gary
like to me,
Freeman.
it's a lose-lose because other people are higher on him than I am.
What about? I don't like, but I don't like the idea of trading within the division. But what about Brooklyn Nets?
For who?
What is their motivation
Yeah.
here? Are you going to take back Ben Simmons' contract and then take a whole bunch of young assets?
Stars. They like star power. So, I would
Okay.
love Cam Thomas. Sorry.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
They're barely playing him, though.
you will start this conversation out with Ben Simmons plus draft equity. You're not
Yeah.
getting Cam Thomas, you're not getting Cam Johnson, you're not getting Mikal Bridges. Like if I'm Brooklyn, I rebuff this very quickly.
Can we look at Brooklyn real quick?
Sure.
At the end of the day, this is what it comes down to for me. You just hope that the Kings go into a rut and they get desperate enough so you get back Keegan Murray, hopefully. And that's going to take probably Siakam and Gary for Keegan and Malik, and then another big salary dump from them. But
Right.
like that's just my opinion. I think that's the best. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's like my pipe dream.
So here's a deal that I would make. And
Okay.
this is it's controversial as fuck, but I would do this. So I would do these two, and then I would build that deal on the assumption that I'm eating a year of Ben Simmons' contract and I'm taking the worst player, and I want a lot of stuff back for it. I'm not going to get what I would love back for it, but let's take. We're not going to get that, obviously. Let's take Derek
What about
Whitehead.
Royce O'Neal?
I don't think so. I think let's try. I think Royce O'Neal would be interesting actually, but he's on a 1-year contract.
$9 million.
Yeah. Let's take De'Aaron Sharp.
Someone says give us Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know. I didn't really like how he played when he played us. I'm not really.
He's having
So
a really
about him.
weird year. Really weird year.
You want a blockbuster trade? Let's make a blockbuster trade. Let's do like 5 players. Just swap rosters. I don't mind Dorian Finney-Smith, but I prefer Spencer Dinwiddie personally. I don't think
Do
they
you
give him
think
up.
they would give him up though? Like I'm thinking about in their mindset.
I mean, this is like straight up 2K mode, right? I'm trading 4 players right now, right? Now I gotta trade some players back to make salaries work. Trade Thad Young. Trade Gary. Trade Dennis.
Please,
trade
Dennis.
Malachi.
Please, Malachi.
Yep. And
What
let's
are
see.
you
They have
doing, Rob?
15 picks. Okay, they have 15 picks.
You don't
I
think we're
want
gonna get
that.
3?
And I want that.
You took the 2025 first round. Is that what you
Yep.
did? Okay, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. How does this trade look? Looks complicated, but does it work?
So we're giving up 2 point guards for Ben Simmons, Royce O'Neal. What about Dinwiddie? You didn't add Dinwiddie.
I don't want Dinwiddie. I mean, I did want him, but it's too much salary to take back. Let me try the trade, see if it works. It failed. Okay, what did I fuck up? Consecutive draft years. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Fuck. Even when it's not even their picks. Oh, Dennis Schroder can't be traded until December 15th.
Yeah. But if you're gonna trade Schroder and Malachi Flynn, are you thinking then you bring up you sign Jeff Doughton?
certainly wouldn't be the worst option. But yeah, I mean, like this is kind of like, why would I do this? Honestly, number one, you get younger and you get some pick equity. You take on an extra year of Ben Simmons. He could be a small ball center for you. I mean, certainly not ideal, but you can sell him as a really big expiring contract next year, right? So you just have to suck up 1 year of it as a negative asset. You can literally ask him to stay away from the team. But what are you really doing with that cap space next summer? You're not doing shit with that cap space next summer, right? And then you can trade it for something down the line. In terms of like this trade, basically just works on how much do you really value Derek Whitehead, and
I've never
Daron
seen
Sharp.
him play. Yeah.
I mean, so Derek and Daron are both known to Scotty, and that's why like I prefer them, right? Derek, yeah, like yeah, they're both. I believe they're both Montverde guys. Royce O'Neal just works. Like he's just a really smart player, really good defensively, offensively, two-way guy. He helps you win this year. You move on from
the stretch
Malachi.
four kind of like that's what I like about him.
Yeah. I mean, you get no point guards back in this. Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
get Ben Simmons back, but I don't know.
Sonny
I mean,
Jeff Dowden. That's it.
yeah.
Straight up.
I mean, this probably is the stupidest trade that I've ever proposed in my life.
It was dumber than what I proposed. Come on.
It was fairer than what you proposed. I don't know if necessarily it was smarter. Yeah.
There's a really. Oh, my fault. I'm sorry.
What about the Pistons?
Gosh, there's a really interesting 3-team deal that just popped in my head. Raptors, Pelicans, Grizzlies.
Okay,
Raptors,
Lane.
Pelicans.
Let's hear this, Lane.
Okay,
So-
can I make my Pistons trade first? Hang on
Yes,
one
sir.
sec.
Yes, sir. My fault.
Okay.
I thought Joe Harris is injured for the year.
For the year?
I haven't seen him at all. I
Okay.
think he's like.
We'll undo him. So Bogdanovich, I will take on 1 year of James Wiseman, and I want Jaden Ivey. Yeah. I will give you Pascal Siakam for Jaden Ivey, James Wiseman, and Bojan Bogdanovich. And I will, in return, give you Malachi Flynn. And
So question, Rob, would you start Jaden Ivey and
Yep.
put
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally like counting down the days to be able to trade Dennis. Like it's coming. Like we will do a trade show on December 15th, and in every trade I propose, I will trade him. Even in trades where he's not involved, I will involve him in that trade. Let me see. Does this work?
Joe Harris has underwent ankle ligament reconstruction surgery.
Success. It works. Jaden Ivey, Bojan Bogdanovich, James Wiseman. It works. Who says no? The Pistons, probably, because they invested a top 5 pick in Jaden
I
Ivey.
think the Raptors would say no.
I would say yes to that.
I would. The Raptors say no.
I would say yes to that just for Jaden Ivey. I mean, I think that's probably right next to Keegan Murray. That's one of the better young players you can get.
At least you got to at least get a draft pick here because like James Wiseman is a negative.
James Wiseman's an expiring. Bogdanovich is a stopgap solution that can provide spacing and scoring and intelligent basketball play for you, which is
It's actually a beautiful trade.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I had to redeem myself after trading for Ben Simmons.
But
yeah,
you
like
think the Raptors would do this though, like just because it's Pascal. You kind of were talking about moving him, and you remember the one I tried to do, and I'd get fired, right? Like you're putting back James Wiseman, Jaden. Well, then James Wiseman has kind of a name to him, right? Jaden Ivey's
he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant in this. Bojan Bogdanovich right now is probably like, I mean, he's older, but he's going to help your spacing so much, right? Wiseman is about as decent a prospect as Precious Achua.
Yeah.
Like, if not better. And Jaden Ivey is a blue chip prospect that actually is the type of dynamic guard you need next to a Scotty Barnes. Plus, bonus, he's learned how to shoot, and he's shooting pretty well this year. I don't see why, if you believe in Jaden Ivey, this is the best offer you're going to get, I think, for Pascal Siakam.
I like Jaden Ivey too. So I
Yeah.
think he's wasting away over there in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, screenshot this to anyone out there, and if the Raptors inevitably do trade Pascal Siakam, tell me if they got a better deal than this. This is a pretty decent deal. I don't know if the Pistons do it. Their season has already slipped away. Why do they need a rental? Why do they need a guy? They need to know that he's signing. And hey, they have Dwayne Casey in the front office. That might help, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Lane, what's your offer?
Yeah, so I want to see if we can kind of construct something real quick just around the Raptors, Pelicans, Grizzlies. but the Raptors have to get Marcus Smart and Trey Murphy in return. That would be what I would want for Pascal, if I can get it.
I just want to answer to Clutch. I don't think why would Golden State give up Andrew Wiggins and Kuminga? Well, I think they would give up
that's low
Andrew
ball.
Wiggins, and replace Andrew Wiggins with Kuminga. So I don't.
My fault. I'm sorry.
No, that's my thought. Like, I don't think they would give up Moody and Kuminga, and then Andrew Wiggins, and then there's that hole there for Andrew Wiggins' spot, right? So
yeah, I mean, in a very normal situation, like obviously,
What's the deal?
If
What's
we were
the
in the
deal?
other team, my fault.
Moses Moody, Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins plus second rounder for Siakam and Chris Boucher.
No,
that's the deal. No.
No.
Sorry, Lane. What's your deal?
Oh, I'm sorry. My deal. Let's try to build it around Siakam.
Where's Siakam going?
He's going to New Orleans.
Oh boy, I already hate this because that screws up their entire front line. They got Siakam, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, plus Brandon Ingram, plus Jonas Valanciunas. How are they playing?
Yeah.
Are they playing Siakam at 1 or Brandon Ingram at 1?
So in this trade, you are sending Valanciunas somewhere too.
So who's playing center for you?
You were pretty much playing small ball center with Siakam at the 5 because you have a really, really big front court. And I think it would work. And plus you still have Larry Nance off the bench if you need it.
Okay, cool. Cool.
You know,
who else is going out for the Raptors?
I'm sorry.
Who else is going out for the Raptors?
Dennis Schroder and Gary Trent Jr.
So Dennis can't be traded right now.
Yeah, I know he can. I'm just saying, like after December 15th.
Okay, but for now, I can't trade him. So we're gonna have to trade Gary to where? The Pelicans?
To the Grizzlies, because they are thinking next year. They are thinking we're gonna bring this guy in, re-sign him next year. We're gonna try to stay young. So Luke Kennard is coming to the Raptors. We're going to try to stay young, content for next year. We already suck this year. We're going to try to get a lottery pick and then build with Jaw later next year.
This actually allows me to wave and stretch him. Should I do it? Should I do it?
Might as well. I mean, shoot.
That's so funny. Okay. I'll make the trade for him going. Where is he going?
Who? I'm sorry.
It just won't, it won't go through for now.
Oh,
like
Dennis,
it'll say it failed.
Memphis. Yeah, Dennis to Memphis.
Okay. Okay, now who's coming back to the Raptors?
You're bringing in Marcus Smart, Trey Murphy, and Luke Kennard.
Okay.
Because Marcus is going to be
Smart.
your quote-unquote point guard, right? But he's
okay. I want to know why, after the brilliance of Kyle Lowry, are you subjecting my eyes to first watching Fred VanVleet, then Dennis Schroder, now Marcus Smart? I have to watch back-to-back point guards who aren't point guards. Fuck my life.
Patrick Beverly told me we don't have dogs, so this would give us a dog.
I will literally lend you my dog, my literal dog, to the team. He will bark at. Okay,
I really like Marcus Smart's energy, and just imagine that energy next to Scotty Barnes, and he's not ball dominant at all. Like he's played next to superstars. You know, he played next. He deferred the Tatum, he deferred the Brown. Right, he's going to defer the Scotty too.
He takes a lot of really dumb shots too, and he doesn't shoot very well. But okay, cool. And Luke Kennard is going to the Raptors. Okay,
correct.
So Luke Kennard, Marcus Smart, and Trey Murphy. Okay,
this is where I need help filling the rest of this shit out, because I think I have the skeleton pretty damn good. I just need like the nerves and the organs. Like I have it built. I just need how the hell are we going to make this work salary wise? And
well, I mean, it kind of already works salary wise right now.
Does it really?
Yep, pretty much. Because I mean, hold on, it doesn't because the Grizzlies send out
33.5 million.
Right. So the Raptors have sent out a grand total of 68 million. Right, and they're taking in way less,
which means we need to.
Someone's got to fill out. Yeah. So we need to take back a big salary. It's basically where we're at right now.
Expirable, a big expirable. Who is deep on these benches?
Well, Jonas Valanciunas only makes 15 million.
That would probably mean Jakob Poeltl's going somewhere then. I mean, I see if Siakam gets traded, Jakob's the next gone, most likely.
Dude, we need to take back salary. We don't need to give
Yeah.
out more salary. We're already giving out like we've already given out between Dennis and Gary, it's 30. And like you're giving out a total
Yeah.
of $68 million, 68.8, right?
Right.
And from the Pelican side, they are completely fucked here because they are 35 million over. And so they need to get rid of like
A CJ McCollum type of contract. Are we 4-teaming this?
yeah. Like, I mean, where are you? But I mean, like, it's not even a matter of 4-team. It's just the problem is the players you've taken back in Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, and Trey Murphy are all super underpaid. You have to take back a big contract,
God.
and none of these teams have a big contract that they can give to you. You're not
I
getting
wish.
Jaw. You're not getting Jaren Jackson. You're
No.
not getting Brandon Ingram. You're not getting
No.
Zion, and you're not getting
No.
CJ.
Yeah.
No.
So this deal is dead in the water.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna get anything from the Pelicans, you would have to. It'd be like a Gary Trent for someone off the bench kind of thing, and that's it. Like you can't really.
It's such a weird trade. All the trade partners that makes sense. It's almost like it can't happen.
Okay. I don't hate my Pistons trade, but let's
No, I
see.
like the Pistons trade.
There was
Actually,
a Magic's trade. Someone else had brought up Jalen Suggs and someone else for Pascal.
Not happening at all.
I don't think they trade Suggs right now. They love him.
They love him and they should. He's been really good for them this year, and he's also like first in the league in defensive EPM, which is crazy. Scotty
So like
was
the
first.
popular say is Knicks, but like we get fleeced there.
I don't want.
You know what's
I
funny?
would never want
So
to
the top 3 defensive EPM guys throughout the year, it's been sort of circulating, has been Scotty, Suggs, and Chet Holmgren. What I find hilarious is that Scotty and Jalen are really, really good friends and have been for a very long time. And Suggs and Chet went to the same high school. So it's basically 3 guys who know each other pretty well, have basically been dominating at under 22 in terms of defensive EPM. Either that metric is absolutely broken or these guys really, really like to play defense and they learned how to play it together.
They weren't at Gonzaga at the same time. That's interesting. They weren't at Gonzaga at the same time either. That's interesting. Suggs
No, they weren't. They played in high school
Yeah.
together though.
Yeah. That's
in Minnesota.
That's a pipeline.
That is a pipeline.
Rob, could you try OKC again?
Oh boy.
Make it a little bit better.
They're not interested in Pascal. I'm telling
We're
you.
bringing in Luke Dort and Davis Bertans plus picks.
It's Davis Bertans.
No.
Oh, my
Put
fault,
some
my fault.
respect on Davis's name. Okay.
Davis is pronounced Davis.
It's Davis Bertans.
Oh, okay.
I
Bringing
think
in Luke Dort, and they're saying that he's Canadian, and that's why we brought him in, and the fans will be happy until
Clutch, chill.
Dort.
nah. I think Lou Dort is pretty much like on one of the best contracts in the NBA for what he does, and they like him a lot, as they should. The truth is, when you think about trades for Pascal Siakam, there really aren't a lot, right? You look at the Hawks and you start to think, are they going to get desperate? Are they trying to salvage their season, right? In terms of money, like paying players money, etc., I think, wow, Clutch Tatum.
Yeah, I know. He's been.
Fuck you right there.
What the hell, bro?
What do you mean, man? We get the Embiid stopper.
With a 2035
Al Horford.
Al
Horford is like 185 years old, bro.
Dude, and he still
I'm
finds
just
a way to
kidding. I'm
fucking
kidding.
hit it.
He's my age. I'm just kidding.
He always hit the clutch 3 on the top of the key
Wait,
against every
I'm
time we
older than Al Horford? What the frig? It's crazy, man. Oh.
Did you just Google it?
No, you said he's your age and I'm older than you. What high school did you go to, Rob?
Stephen Leacock.
Where?
Stephen Leacock.
Oh. Leacock.
So actually, I stand corrected. Al Horford is older than me by a year. He's 86 born. My bad. So
Yeah,
he's
I'm still
37 right
older.
now.
God damn, so older than that guy. Do you want to try the Kings then? No.
The Kings. Okay, sure.
Someone was
Yeah,
saying
actually,
Kevin
that
Herter.
actually, I'm surprised that we haven't tried that yet. Okay, cool. So Raptors and Kings. All right, let's do this.
How desperate are the Kings at this point?
I mean, they just got wiped out of the in-season tournament, so they're in shambles.
Oh, yeah.
They are in shambles.
Zigsaw, we already did Warriors.
I have a question. It may be stupid. What does the LeBron thing mean?
It's
Like,
a
where
metric. It's a metric that's like it's a catch-all one metric stat
Got you.
that shows how good a particular player is.
Got you. It seems to favor power forwards and small forwards.
I mean,
LeBron is right.
not
LeBron
really.
James. Could we add Kevin Herter to this? I like that kid.
Kevin Herter.
Yeah.
Yep. Raptors. Mm-hmm. Who else are getting back?
My heart wants to say Keegan, but my
never
brain
gonna
says
happen.
Malik. I know. My brain says Malik. My heart says Keegan.
Your brain and your heart are wrong. Check with
There's
your
no
check
way.
with your liver.
There's
Check with
no
your-
way.
I mean, dude, have you watched Malik Monk play this year? He's
I
awesome.
have, but come on.
No, you come on. First of all, the salaries don't work. Malik makes $9 million, or
You're
$10 million dollars.
But
So you
Barnes-
have to take back
Damn,
more.
we're stuck with Harrison Barnes' old
But
ass.
Barnes does add it, and then we would need.
Harrison Barnes is 31 years old. Okay, I resent the comment that he's old. He's 5 years younger than I am. So I mean, he's born in 90. I think like Harrison Barnes born in 93.
Is he really 6'8"? He doesn't strike me as 6'8". That's crazy. Learn something every day.
I would
6'7".
add Barnes to this, and then we need some sort of young player here.
Kevin Herter is
Davion
25
Mitchell,
years.
come to the stage.
No.
That's the joke. I mean, I don't know who else they give us unless you want Chris Duarte.
Do not.
Kessler
I would love
Edwards.
that.
Why?
I like Duarte. I like the way he plays.
You're the first person in the world to like the way Chris Duarte plays. First person.
I like him, man.
It's
He
basically you. It's basically you and Chris Duarte's family. And that's the entire Chris Duarte fan club right there.
You, man. How dare you?
He's really 26. That's crazy. I knew it was old, but not that old.
Do they have any
Bro,
draft picks?
They better. Shit.
This
Okay.
is
They don't have any draft. What the frick?
Okay. I will take one
25.
20. You know what I really want back in every single trade? I want 2024 draft picks.
Really?
Sorry, I want 2025 draft picks.
That's why I've been skipping 2024. I want to
I want at least one. Okay, so here's the thing. There is one player that I really like in the. Okay, so we're just complete this trade and be done with it. Okay, does this trade work? I already know it works. But I think we need to give up one more player just to make it match. So
No, I think you're good, right?
like I mean, just for roster space, we don't have a roster space, so
Oh.
we have to give up somebody, and we're just gonna give up Markquis Flynn. Peace.
You've added him to every trade, bro.
Just,
Dude,
he's in the way right now. He's in the way. Like I
Then we
like
add-
Malachi. It's
add
cool, but I
Precious.
think
I'd
the
rather
chapter
move
needs to
Precious.
close. Like, look, man, Precious. There's still like some sort of like justifiable upside here. Okay, like it could work. Like I don't
Mhm.
know. Like like pitchers have Tommy John surgery. Like he could have like fucking Tommy John surgery for his brain or something. Like just,
electric
Okay.
shock therapy or something.
There was this turnover today at the game, and he was coming down the court on a fast break, and they zoomed in on his face, and he did this thing like this. And it was like him rethinking what he should do, and then he traveled. And I was like, "Oh my god, bro! Just pass the ball. Just stop. Pass the ball. What? Why are you doing this? Why did it fail?"
I need to cut $679,000 from the incoming trade. So basically, Malachi makes like
All right. So how much
Just
is
a little bit
isn't
less.
Precious less than Malachi?
stop trying to trade Precious, man.
Bye bye, Garrett Temple.
This guy did this thing with his eye, and then you could see his brain fail right in that turnover.
That was funny for sure.
Wait, you said Malachi makes too much?
Yeah. So basically, you need
Garrett
to.
Temple.
I like Garrett. He's like
I
the
like
most.
Garrett too.
He's the most.
Best shooter.
He's the best dressed player in Raptors history.
Is it bad for saying that I would rather
He and Serge are like the
over
best dressed players in Raptors history. They need to teach the young guys some style. You know, they need to teach them how to you know. Okay, let's see. Oh my God!
Too
Can we
much.
trade Jalen McDaniels? Can we just trade this whole team? It's fucking crazy, man. Like, I mean, seriously, who wouldn't I trade at this point? Gone, keep, gone, keep for fit purposes. Not even fit, like roster fit, like fit, like pre-game fit. Gone, keep, gone, keep forever, gone, keep, gone 50 times. So it's just like, I don't know. I'm like at odds, right? Because if I play 2K with this team, straight up, I trade half the roster every time, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Teach them how to wear scarves.
What?
Someone said OG will teach them how to wear scarves. They're talking about
yeah.
Yeah,
Maroon Prince saying our roster is legitimately bad. I hope this exercise exposes that. Yeah, like so.
Yeah,
So here's the thing: two players that I really like that really fit what we do. One of them probably a little bit more achievable than the other, but one is coming out in next year's draft. Probably Baba Miller from Florida State. I don't know if you watched him play, Elaine. Have you?
A little. I caught a Florida State game, so a little bit.
Cool. Yeah. So he's like, to me, gives me elements of Jonathan Isaac meets Tony Kukoc in the very, very best case scenario.
Mhm.
He's got a long way to go in terms of becoming a better rebounder, etc. But this is a guy who's 6'2", who was a guard and plays like it. But now he's almost 7 feet tall, and it's about 7'2". And his box plus minus has gone from like negative 3.1 last year. He had all sorts of eligibility issues coming over from Madrid to a 6.2 this year. And Florida State is no joke, right? So while the raw box score numbers with him are not screaming out, this is the consequence of playing with under Leonard Hamilton. Your numbers are never going to be like elite. You're never going to average 25 points per game playing for Leonard Hamilton. They play pretty egalitarian offense. They have a really switch heavy scheme. He has every tool that Patrick Williams had. He's just 1 year older. I would like him. And I think in a really weak draft, he could climb next year. He could climb all the way to lottery. I think like he's one of those guys where once you see him in the gym and you put some tests, and if he measures out like 7'4" wingspan or something, someone's going to bite, because his playmaking is elite. Like really, I don't want to say elite, good, very good playmaking for a player his size, and his shooting has come a long way. The second guy is Cooper Flag the next year.
Yeah.
So we're just like revisiting the Scotty pipeline of Montverde and Florida State. But like Cooper Flag is a very interesting player. I'm wondering if you've seen him play, Lane.
Yeah. All the time. I've probably seen like 3 or 4 games in the past like month of him.
What do you think?
I think honestly, I hate like every time that a big prospect comes up, it's like, oh, they're better than the last big one. But like, I legit think this dude could be better than Wemby. Like, I'm just being so serious. Like, I think his offensive skill set is through the freaking roof. I don't think defensively he could be as good, but I think offensively, like his build, what he's been able to do, and obviously it's not flashy right now, but if you look at like his averages or his shot, or even just like his athleticism 2 years ago to now, it's absolutely insane. Like, he's the guy that hasn't been a secret like at all. So like, obviously, I mean, even if you know even a little bit about basketball, you've been following him. And I mean, just the jumps the dude's taking. Like, I feel like every time I see a video of him, he gets a little bit more athletic. He gets a little bit bigger. He gets a little bit of a better shot, you know?
Who would you compare him to, Lane? Just for
Who would I compare him to?
Yeah. So I can put it in my mind, like what type
Kind of
of
like a young Kristaps Porzingis that had a baby with Chet Holmgren. I feel like that's the best way you can explain it.
I think this is a massive misreading. Just my opinion. I think like I have a completely different read on this prospect. But that's interesting that you think that because you just compared him to two guys who can shoot, and I don't necessarily think he can shoot
I
very
think
well.
I think he could really get there. Like the jumps he's taken in the past 2 years really show that he can. So,
It's
yeah,
hard to judge prospects this young, but like his defense to me is what sticks out.
it
Like
is.
his
It is. He's very,
switchability, like his ability to get down and actually guard, his feel for the game. I
right.
think of him like a Scotty Barnes type. Like he's got a lot of Scotty Barnes stuff in him. It's just he's bigger, like he's taller. Probably at this stage, not probably, definitely at this stage, a slightly better shooter. But the Kristaps stuff, like he's not 7'2", 7'3". When you're talking about guys like Chet, like he also I don't think has like a 7'6", 7'5" wingspan. So and plus I think he's more of a wing. Those guys were bigs, right?
Really.
Do you see him as a big?
I see him as a 4 in the NBA.
Okay. I mean, I see him like Andre, like it's almost like Andre Kirilenko, but like with a way more refined offensive package.
I was gonna ask that just because I saw the haircut.
AK-47.
You know, but
Hmm?
I was thinking that when I've seen clips of him, I've never seen him actually play, but I was thinking Andre Kirilenko
Yeah. I mean,
or
I don't.
or Gordon Harewood, but he doesn't. I don't see the shot yet, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, just for the record, like, I think if there was ever a white player that you don't necessarily need to compare to all other white players, it's probably Cooper. Like,
Yeah.
I think, like, just play style athletically, he doesn't really fit the mold of, you know, Creighton, shooter, Jason. Yeah. Like, it's something that drives me crazy because it's like with Gradey Dick, every time I have a conversation with Gradey Dick, people always bring up like Jason Capono or Duncan Robinson, etc. And every time I watch Gradey play, I'm just like, yo, this dude's got like some sauce to his game. You know, he's got like some like he's got something more to his game than just, you know, like
salt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got
he's adding more spice
he's got
salt.
a little bit more in the spice rack, right? So he's, I'm not suggesting that he's going to be like, you know, he's not Ray for Alston. He's not going to be like Skip to my lube, but like he's got some game to him, you know. He's got some in between stuff. He's got like stuff that makes you think of guys that are not just strictly Jason Capono. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Doug McDermott. And it's just surprising to me how often people arrive to the same conclusion. He's pretty athletic. He's not a bad athlete. I mean, I understand he's not a run jump athlete like Gerald Green, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's not like a bad athlete. And he's a coordinated, fluid athlete. You know what I mean? He's not hitchy. You know what I mean? Like some guys are hitchy when they move, you know? He's fluid.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why he always gets compared to all these, like, not saying that any player in the NBA is not athletic, but like these lesser athletes. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with Mike Miller. Like Mike Miller, he was not like other players who were of his skin color.
I love,
you know, Chandler Parsons was not like other players. Like I think, like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing about your skin color that dictates how you fucking play basketball, right?
They always put you in that box.
But they do. That's the fucked up thing. They really do, right? Like there was always
contest guy. I forgot his name. Barry, one of the Barry players.
Brent Barry.
Brent Barry. I thought he was unreal, man. That guy could play.
Are you a rich man's Jan Vesely? Are you oh, that's interesting. Are you comparing Cooper Flagg to Jan Vesely? That's actually not, like, that's the disaster case scenario of if everything goes horribly for Cooper Flagg. Yes, he would be Jan Vesely. Actually, ironically, I think Baba Miller is a little bit close to a disaster class Jan Vesely if things don't go well. In either case, with Cooper and Baba, I'm talking about a player type that is like a switchable 1 through 5 type player. And it's very interesting to me. These players are very interesting. I know that you guys might be scarred by watching Precious Achiuwa play basketball for the last 2-3 years to be like, shit, fuck this player type. I just want guys who can play one position. But really, like, when you think about it, this entire Shohei thing, Shohei Otani, Is it Otani?
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani. Yeah.
Right. So I was looking them up a lot because it seems like, the Blue Jays are heavy favorites to land him. And I thought it was interesting because you're on and you're a basketball guy. Sorry, you're a baseball guy. So I thought it was interesting. So I decided to learn a lot about Shohei today. Apparently, I did not learn how to pronounce his first name, but what I learned about him was specifically that players like this don't come along very often because he's a two-way player, because he is like a top level hitter, but also like a top level pitcher. And this is just not done. And how unique his path was to developing both these skill sets, because in Major League Baseball, typically you're basically told to develop one or the other. And his path in Japan and the specific contract that he had over there, which allowed him to be both, was why he went and played over there. And now he's like the best player in the league by many people's standards, because it's like getting two superstars wrapped into one, right?
Correct.
Why do we not think about positionless basketball players this way?
Yeah, it's
Right?
it's I think it's mainly because there's so few that can do it. And not saying there's a lot that can do it in baseball, because obviously there's only Shohei, but there's so few that can do it at such a dominant level. And it's wild because Shohei's such an anomaly. Like, Shohei's a guy you think you hear about back in like the 1930s or 1940s, like a legend. Like people compare him to Babe Ruth, because that's like
It's a good comparison.
yeah, it's the only thing you can pretty much compare him to, because nobody's done that because of like DH rules, or like Shohei, he's going into a second Tommy John surgery, so he probably won't pitch as much anymore, right? But it's
He's
like,
supposed to be pitching back in 2025.
yeah, he's supposed to, but I think he's going to move to a closer role, because whatever team is going to sign him, they're going to be like, listen, dude, we need you to fucking hit. We can't have you have another arm injury, and next thing you know, your bat's compromised too. Which
I'm
sucks.
just saying, if he does sign, I'm getting a jersey, and I'm going to become a Blue Jay fan again.
Well, what sucks for the Blue Jays is they shot themselves in the foot, because their front office comes out and it's like, yeah, Shohei signs here. They make the salary cap. Well, not to make the salary cap, because there's no salary cap in baseball, but to make the money work for ownership, we're going to go ahead and get rid of Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And it's like, why would he come
Why
here?
would you do that?
Exactly. Why would he come
No,
here?
you give that man all the money he wants,
He's
and
just
you
back
sign
on the
those two
Angels at that
players.
point.
Wait, they would get rid of Vladdy?
Vladdy and Bo. They said they get rid of Vladdy and Bo. Either one or both, if they get other free agent signings too.
Why?
Because
Why
people
not?
who come play with Shohei.
Vladdy and Shohei have a
makes
good
no sense
relationship
to me.
too.
Yeah, and it makes no sense to me, but that's what their front office said. I promise you can Google it. I'm not making it up. It's bullshit.
Well, that would be bullshit, because isn't Vladdy still a top 20 player? Top 20, top
The
25?
idea of him is top 20.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, he's probably in like the 40 to 50 space. The idea is top 20. His issue is kind of like, I don't want to say he's like the Pascal Siakam of like Major League Baseball, but he kind of is in the sense of like,
Don't put that on him.
I know, but like once he gets to the playoffs, he's like a career 120 hitter in the playoffs. And like they don't need him to just hit home runs. They need him to hit for average. And that's kind of why they've not been able to get past the first round in the last few years. So the idea is he would come here and we would replace our two top guys with him, and then surround Shohei with the team that he needs.
Well, what kind of a track record does Shohei have in the playoffs?
None at all.
Exactly. He's never made it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
At least
what's the
Vlad has
point?
brought us to the playoffs.
It makes no sense. I think
this is, by the way, I think like the first time I've ever discussed baseball.
It's beautiful. You should
In
watch
like 15 years.
Dude,
I went to two Blue Jays games over the last couple of years. Bored to tears. I'm not a baseball guy. I do not like baseball. I was not good at baseball. Hit one home run in my whole life.
all the analytics behind it, you would love it.
No, I love Moneyball. I love the film Moneyball. It's great. I like, all, don't worry. I get it. It's just, I cannot watch like this many games. And like, it feels like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just, I remember there was like this comedian once. I was like, attended a club, and he was talking not about baseball, but about cricket. And he was just like, people are getting like old while watching the game. Like you come back and then the game's still going on. The guy's got new white hairs. His kids are at home. Like, where have you been, Dad? These games that are super long, and there's like, I mean, it's just the meaninglessness of that, I think. And also like it's so American.
You don't like the pitch rules?
Hmm?
You don't like the pitch clock rules? The new pitch clock rules? They've shortened baseball by an hour. It went from an average of 3.5 hour game to 2.5 hour game this past year.
That's still long, but
I feel like, okay, so here are the sports that I can stand like watching: basketball, soccer, and that's it.
Not a big football.
Tennis, football is like, okay, so tennis, yes, I can watch it. Football, I can watch it. That's it. So beyond that, we get into hockey, baseball territory, and hockey is cool for me. In small spurts, if the Leafs are in the playoffs or whatever, I'll watch it. Baseball, like I cannot watch a full game. Like I will die. Quite literally, like last time I had like this person had asked me to come, and we were like right above like the dugout. I think I'm using the right term.
Oh, that's
really
beautiful.
like super close to the field. And I'm just like, I showed up an hour late just to make sure that I don't fall asleep in my seat. And I tell you, like 30 minutes into the game, I was like bored to tears, staring around, just like, what the hell? I don't even have like a low attention for this. I just the game just doesn't appeal to me. I need to watch it. Like you remember like Gordon Bombay and the Mighty Ducks? Like, that's how I need to watch my football. And Brad Pitt in Moneyball is how I need to watch my baseball. I need to watch highlights. I don't mind watching. Honestly, even baseball highlights are very slow for me.
I feel that. I feel like with baseball, I feel like you'd appreciate this a lot as a chess guy. There's a lot of game within the game kind of thing going on. So analytics against analytics. And the beautiful thing about baseball is you have the old school and the new school. So there's a lot of front offices that are very analytically driven, but those front offices that are analytically driven will hire very old school managers to manage their teams. And it's proven to be a successful track record. Like this year, the Rangers won. A few years ago, the Braves won with very old school managers, but very analytically driven front offices. And the chess game is beautiful. Like you see it evolve from like I coach 18U, and
oh shit! So Darian saying MMA, Rob, and I said yes, and he said Fedor was him in his prime. Hell, fucking yes, Fedor Emelianenko was absolutely him. I got into MMA for because my roommate was into MMA. I did not choose to be into MMA. I was more like a wrestling guy when I was younger. I could tell you anything about wrestling from 1992 to 2000. That entire era is like mapped to my brain as every inside story about wrestling. And it's just like such a useless thing to have devoted so much time to when I think about it in hindsight, but also very interesting. MMA was like right around 2007 till like 2017. So basically that all my references are in that era, and Fedor Emelianenko was the guy during that era. So yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Rob, about this other prospect that someone had brought up was Nikola Topic.
Topic, yep.
What are your thoughts on him?
Overrated. I mean, I think he's all right. Like he's like someone said possibly first overall pick. I was like, what the fuck?
That's how weak the draft is.
I mean, it's not that weak. I mean, it's weak as fuck, but it's not like this is the type of player that I mean, I have definitely seen prospects this good at the end of the first round in many years, like even the beginning of the second round. So for like, I mean, it speaks to the volume or quality of the rest of the draft. Obviously, he's a big point guard. You know, he's 6'6", 6'7". But I have a lot of questions about his defense. I have questions about how good is his passing. You know, like I've watched a couple of games of his. So granted, not expert analysis by any means, just because we're from the same country. But I've watched just a couple of games of his. I don't remember seeing anything from him that was like, wow, what a great pass. You know, with Nikola Jokic, like when you watch him in youth level, every game there was like 6-7 plays where you're like, I can't believe a 17-year-old just did that. So that was the difference for me. And he was second rounder. Granted, people have learned from that, and Mega has become sort of a basketball factory, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think late lottery pick, probably. Someone will, buy the hype. Big playmakers are a thing for sure. And I think like that's really the conversation I really wanted to have about Gradey is people need to stop talking about him like a shooter and start talking to him about him like a big playmaker, because I think he will become one eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting question. In scenario, if let's say we're just a whole pack of mid this year and we finish between 14 to 17 for the draft, so we lose our pick, which is nightmare scenario. But we go.
I don't care.
But we go into we go into the draft with a second. We have a second, correct?
Nope.
Never mind.
Our second belongs to the Clippers. Our first belongs to the Spurs. Which
How
means
does our
we are,
second to the Clippers?
I don't remember, but I know that we gave up a 2024 second. Like I'm pretty sure. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I checked earlier and it said to the Clippers.
No, I was gonna say second round pick Tyler Kolak would be perfect to be a bench guard, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, like I just I want pick equity back, largely because I know how good this front office has been typically in terms of drafting, and I resent so much how much pick equity has gone out for such middling moves.
that is fucking young.
Yeah, I mean that's
disgusting.
Yeah, it's that, but like also like when I look at the Pelicans, I'm just like seeing a team that hit. Even if we could have a debate about how good is Dyson Daniels really, will he be better? Obviously, I have utmost faith in this player, his two-way potential. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, etc. I mean, these guys are all great role players, all of them, right? And you have your star, and you have your role players. It's like they're really perfecting this entire, like Trajan Langdon has basically perfected the Raptors model, and he's doing it better than the Raptors at this point. Long, switchable wings, right? I mean, when they moved off of Anthony Davis, like effectively, they have rebuilt it about as well as they could, right? I mean, they let Lonzo Ball go for nothing. He was a hell of a player. He got injured pretty much the first year. Imagine how good Lonzo would have been with that group, right? But it's just smart trades. They've made smart trades everywhere. It's just fit, it's fit somehow. And yeah, I'm very interested to see tomorrow what it's going to look like for them against the Lakers.
Yeah,
I mean, tomorrow, right?
It mixed with luck. I feel like they played both sides perfectly. Like the cards that got dealt to them worked perfectly, and then they've kind of worked it
But I
out.
mean, like finding Herb Jones in the second round, finding Trey Murphy in the middle of the first round. These are big pieces. Like the Raptors don't have, apart from Scotty, they don't have a single young player on the level of a Herb Jones right now. I mean, you could say OG, but like, I mean, apart from OG and Scotty, like there's nobody on the level of a Herb Jones, much less on the level of a Dyson Daniels or Trey Murphy, right? Or Jordan Hawkins right now. So it's like the embarrassment of riches is just, it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And yeah. Anyway, great conversation, guys. Happy we got to trade, a whole bunch of players. It was probably cathartic for someone out there.
I had fun, but I'm gonna get killed. I know.
You're gonna get killed. Yeah.
These
I mean,
guys
we should probably do like a trade show or something at some point, but I think I prefer to do it after, probably a little bit closer to the trade deadline. Once Dennis and Jakob are able to be moved. I mean, again, like this team, I try to trust who Masai has been, and like listening to, there was a Josh Lewenberg article where he talked to all the players sort of involved in the Rudy Gay trade in the aftermath of it, right? Kyle, Bobby Webster, a lot of, big time names that were involved. And one of the things that kind of just, it's weird, but what kind of comes back from it is how lucky the Raptors were that the Knicks reject the Lowry offer, right? Something that I've known for a really long time, but like ultimately this has been, it's weird coming out now that the Raptors are in this sort of state of flux and potentially on the verge of making another Rudy Gay type of deal, that you got lucky twice Actually, you get lucky 3 times. Number one, you get lucky because the Knicks turned down the offer, right? You get lucky because this Rudy Gay package turns out to be a saving grace that you didn't even expect. Like, they weren't expecting to be good. You know, nobody expected them to be good, much less so good that you continue to, you know, sustain that. And then, you know, something that Blake Murphy was talking about was just like the extension tree of those trades. Like what Gravis Vasquez turned into, like what John Salmon's turned into. Like there was just so much winning of, you know, every deal. And since then there's been like so much losing of every deal.
Yeah.
So it's just like the Raptors just need to start winning again. It's ironic. Masai Ujiri, we need to win. We need to win. It's like, bro, you need to win a trade. One trade. Just need to win one trade. You know? Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, have a good night. Peace.
Appreciate you too.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
See you guys. All right. Thank you to everybody who stayed with us. I mean, it's kind of crazy that at 1:51 in the morning, we still have 205 of you in here. Yeah, tough loss. Sometimes these tough losses, they can be sad. I think a lot of people would probably say that the Raptors are a part of their lives. You know, like when the Raptors play really well, your favorite player plays well. I can totally understand that you feel like better about things. That's not lost on me. I think that's a function of sports. You know, certainly, you know, if your favorite players, I don't know, Malachi Flynn or Gary Trent or whatever, and those guys have like a 30-point night, maybe like, you know what I mean? Like your day is just a little bit peppier and better. So when the Raptors come out after 4 games, 4 days off and lay an egg the way they did tonight, I can fully understand how this might be a bit of a bummer for some people. And so because of that, I think sometimes it's good to have these longer lives just for people who are specifically needing a little bit more of a distraction. So yeah, so thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I would super appreciate if you give this video a like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, to all of you who have been chatting along, and of course to Ken Boo for the super chat, which I very much appreciate. Thank you guys, and yeah, see you guys tomorrow or Friday. Not sure yet. Peace.